Okay. Let me just double check that everything is working.
Oh,
that's for that. No, I have to go not to Twitch, to YouTube. Can I even say the word Twitch now? I think it's illegal.
No, you're not allowed. If you say it on YouTube, they come and get you.
I hear the sirens as we speak.
They're coming to get you.
All right, let me lower this music here so people can
They're
hear
coming
us.
to get you, Diane. All right. What's going on, everyone? Hopefully everyone's having a good day, night, whatever it is in your time zone.
Yeah.
So we are hanging out. As you could see from the title, we couldn't think of a better title for what we're going to talk about today, because we're kind of all exhausted from it. But let me do the general intro so I don't have to give Steve a hard time when he just rips this down tomorrow and then puts it back up for our YouTube video.
No, well, this is the benefit of doing this on YouTube. This is automatically going to become just live in the live section of the channel.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, this is what I keep telling you.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
This is how technology works.
I learned YouTube Shorts, and then I made 17 shorts in one day. So let me live, sir. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Nothing Venture, Nothing Game. And let me tell you, gamer gang out there, it's been one heck of a week. I am waiting 15 seconds. I have a timer, by the way, because you have to wait like 15 to like 30 seconds before you can start swearing.
Yeah, he likes to use the profanity.
Videos. I'm all about profanity. I have, like, my blood pressure has gone up like 17 points. I can't see the doctor. I was supposed to go see him, and I am joined by Steve. How are you doing this evening, Steve?
Yo.
That took forever to get to for that intro.
Fine.
But I want to say thank you to everyone for being here or catching up with us later at your convenience to watch this. But yeah, I was supposed to go to the doctor's this week, and I had to cancel and make it for like next week sometime later in the week, because I'm pretty sure my blood pressure has gone up like 16 points.
You need a week for that thing to calm down. I will say that's a little bit short amount of time that it took Wizards to respond to all this.
A little bit. Jeez Louise. They really, so there's a chart out there that you can find if you F around, you can find out how much you can find out at the same time. And they didn't consult that chart. I thought everyone knew about that chart. Wizards did not consult that chart.
That is literally the internet. Yeah, that is literally the internet 101 chart.
Yeah, they are finding out in just buckets. So yeah, like, so much has happened. So if you don't know, I'm sure you've seen, like, if you're in the tabletop space like we are, you've seen everything. You know, the OGL has come on the fire and everything else. So this is officially, I want to say, the third time with D&D/Wizards/ the Dungeons and Dragons game has tried to, like, monopolize on their product. And I want to go, I have a history degree, I have a bachelor's in history and a master's in other stuff. So I want to talk about a little bit of history here, right? So back in the day, TSR, right, was the original owners of Dungeons and Dragons, right? So there was Dungeons and Dragons, and then they brought people in, and then that overseeing company was called TSR. And I believe it was like right around when second edition was created, TSR tried to do what they're doing now, cracking down on like third-party content and like consolidating everything, right? And it became known colloquially in the sphere of gaming. TSR started to be known as they sue regularly, because they would sue anyone who made any kind of like supplement for like similar like systems, right? So the United States government said, hey, you can't copyright dice games. That's why we have Monopoly clones and stuff like that. But if I like Dritz, right? Like I could say the word Dritz, right? We all know Dritz. We all know Caddy Bree. We all, Bruno Battlehammer. We all know those characters. R.A. Salvatore created those characters. Now, if I made a supplement that talked about those characters, yes, I could be sued, right? But that's copy. That's. Or if I wrote a module and I wasn't working for Wizards, well, at that time TSR, and I had a beholder in it, I could be sued because technically Wizards, TSR, and the Dungeons and Dragons own beholders. That's their intellectual property.
Yeah, I was about to say that goes into the definition, the legal definition of what intellectual. Now, okay. Preface: none of us are lawyers. None of us are lawyers.
You just found out I could be a history teacher, so I'm not a lawyer.
But the idea is that intellectual property are certain things that can be copyrighted and certain things that can't. So they turned out that you cannot copyright a rule. So saying that my character has a +5, and if I roll a d20, that plus the d20 is that can't be copyrighted. You can't copyright a die roll. You can't copyright a rules mechanic. But you can copyright something like I said, someone created Dritz Stewart, someone created Beholders, someone created Illithids or Mind Flyers. That is what can be copyrighted, and then but the actual rule system is something that can't be copyrighted.
No. They did actually unearth a D20. You can Google this. That they found. It was like from the I think it had Greek writing on it. Yeah, so it's from they think it might have been like a dice from the Rome or ancient Greece in that time period. So the D20 has been around for a very long time apparently. It had Greek script on it. So so that's the thing. So TSR, right? TSR went bankrupt because of all their financial craziness, right? That a small company at the time that was making great money selling Magic the Gathering, Wizards of the Coast, bought out TSR, and then D&D was bought out and turned in, and that's when we got 3.0, right? D&D 3.0 is when Wizards of the Coast was bought out, and then Hasbro bought out Wizards of the Coast, right? So that's history. Time goes on. We have 3.5, which was the updated rules to 3rd edition, and then we had 4th edition.
Well, before 4th edition, around the time we had 3rd edition, is when the original OGL was crafted.
Yes, 3rd edition, 3.5 era. The original OGL was crafted by one of the writers on Dungeons and Dragons. They were like, "Yo, this is what we want to make." Cool. 3.0, 3.5 came out. Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro, dropped the OGL going into 4th edition and created the S something.
The GSL.
The STD. They created the STD, and basically like they're doing now, it dropped the OGL, and then that's when the company fractured, and that's where we got Paizo, right? And this kind of ties into what we'll talk about a little later. But Paizo was created based on the original OGL and not 4th edition rules. Remember, rule sets, character and specific stuff can be copyrighted, but rules can't. So bada bing, bada boom. Now you have Paizo creating Pathfinder and Pathfinder 1st edition, or in the community was known as 3.75, because they did increase and update the rules even more.
Yes.
Then that was 4th edition.
Yeah, but what Paizo did is they interjected. Obviously, they couldn't use Forgotten Realms. They couldn't use Greyhawk. They couldn't use Dragonlance. They couldn't use those world settings because that world setting is that stuff that is copyrightable. What they did 100%. End up doing is putting their own world on top of the rule set. And they also did clean up the rules and make modifications to the rules.
Yeah. And then additionally on top of that, just so everyone knows, Paizo was originally third-party creators for 3.5. Many of the Paizo people who made Pathfinder worked hand in hand with Dungeons and Dragons at the time. And then they were like, yo, 4th edition looks like a train wreck. The STD is coming. We don't want STDs. We're leaving. And then they splintered off. That's
fun enough. A piece of little trivia that a lot of people don't remember is that there are 2 magazines at the time of around the 3rd edition ish. I don't know when this magazine first started. These 2 magazines first started, but there's a dungeon magazine and a Dragon magazine.
Dragon magazine.
For a long time during this 3rd edition era of time, I'm pretty sure it's about the 3rd edition era. It's on my time frame, it would be a little off, but I'm pretty sure during 3rd edition is when Paizo was actually writing those magazines.
Yeah.
That was one of the things they were doing. They were doing that, and they started doing their adventure paths. Yes.
Which ironically is like a standard, and the fact that other people don't follow that system is just mind-blowing to me. Because it makes more sense. So 4th edition came out. This was around the time I got into Dungeons and Dragons myself. Was the 3.5 Pathfinder 3.75 time set. I skipped 4th edition. I played it at my friendly local game store, and I died to a swarm of spiders. And I was like, I don't effing know what happened. I don't like this. I'm going back to what I know. So I left 4th edition. I hear mixed reviews. Some things are great. Like Matt Colville speaks very highly of it. A good friend of mine, Matt Colville's not a good friend of mine. Matt Colville speaks very highly of it, a good friend of mine, Chuck. He loved 4th edition. He said the rules for like balancing encounters and like divvying out gold and magical items was amazing.
They had a couple of cool ideas in the game. Yes. It's just as a whole, it was more designed. From what I hear now, I always looked at it's a great board game, and it was a mediocre role-playing system. From what I understand is that the Wizards, to their credit, were a little bit ahead of the time, and it was actually designed for virtual tabletops, even though they weren't really a thing yet.
No, they were not. They were not around. Virtual tabletops were not around at that time. The internet had just started, and that's also something we should point out. The reason why we have these 3.0s, 3.5s was because of Windows 95 and the internet blow up, AOL 2.0. This was the time the internet was kind of expanding and becoming mainstream. So they were trying to hop on the hype of brand name recognition. That's important. So that's why we had these edition like 3.5, 3.75, 5th edition, 5.5, 6th edition, stuff like that, right? Like originally it was just called Dungeons and Dragons and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, so 2nd edition, what we coined, a lot of us coined now as 2nd edition, was actually, there was no 2 on the actual book. Actually, if I want to do, I can bury out my book in the back there. It actually just called Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons,
and it eventually became coined as 2nd edition.
Yeah, even 5th edition doesn't have
a 5.
There's no 5 in any of the books. So
only third. I mean, only third. I think. Funny enough, is 3.5 is the only edition that I can remember off the top of my head that had the 3.5 on it, because they were trying to recognize that it was just like 3rd. It's just just an update.
Yeah, it was a software patch. That's
effectively
what it was.
Yeah.
Effectively, it was a software patch.
By the way, I bought I have 2 3rd edition, one 3rd edition, one 3.5 book. Both were full price. I have 2 versions of the DMG. I have 2 versions of the Master Manual. God damn it.
You want to hear something funny? I was at my mom's house this weekend, and this is a tangent. I was at my mom's house, and I found my old 3.5 book, which the art inside is amazing.
Oh yeah, I have to give it to that.
And apparently I was reading something, and I had page marked the chapter I was reading.
The OGL. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, the OGL. No, I page marked it, and this kind of goes back to the whole thing. I had used one of those free internet CDs we used to get. As the
AOL CDs?
No, it wasn't AOL. It was the other one that we used to, like that they Netfire or something like that.
Oh,
it was the other one.
Net Zero?
Net Zero. That was it. It was a Net Zero one. I was like, oh, cool. I was like looking through stuff. Like my mom was like, hey, listen, I got some boxes of your D&D stuff. Maybe you want to take it. And I was like, cool. I looked at it and I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, oh, look, here's some like shitty drawings I did when I was like, in high school and like middle school. And I was like, oh, look, blah, blah, blah. I was like, oh, and I opened up the book and it cracks, right? It was like, argh. And then dust flies off, and then the Net Zero CD fell out. And I was like, ooh.
Should try it. Probably still works.
Yeah, definitely. I got like another 18 years free for it.
Well, Net Zero is free.
Yeah, well, you always put in just a new CD and have infinite free net. So going back to the history, right? 4th edition came out. The STD happened. Fourth edition did pretty bad. This was the rise of Pathfinder, right? Like Pathfinder, this is when Pathfinder kind of like rose to dominance, right?
A couple of reasons for that too, but go ahead.
Yeah, they had better stuff, more or less, but the writing was good.
I have an interesting piece of lore, but go ahead.
Okay, but like as the Macho Man Randy Savage, my boy says, the cream rises to the top.
God damn it!
And that was I had to get Macho Man in here, and so that was Paizo. Paizo, the cream rose to the top, and then 5th edition dropped and it blew up. 5th edition changed the course of history.
Yeah.
5th edition additionally went back to the OGL, and that's where we were today, except maybe not. Who the fuck knows? As now coming out, just insanity. But I want to get back to your trivia. How is Paizo not the cream of cream?
Not the Paizo's cream of the crop, but there was a couple of reasons why they did their own system. So during around the era of 4th edition, or right around where 4th edition was coming out, I'm not sure if it was right before or right after, or somewhere around that time, not only did the game system change from the OGL. Now the OGL still existed, and people could still make content. Obviously, you could still make content for 3rd edition, 3.5, and I believe that the original OGL even included all the old editions of the game. Which actually, there's another game system that I know that actually used it, that used the old AD&D system, Hackmaster.
Hackmaster.
But
yes.
The thing is that around this time, where effectively not many creators could make stuff because of the GSL for 4th edition, is around the time when I believe that Wizards also pulled back their Dungeon and their Dragon magazines to be publicated by themselves.
Yes.
So not only did Paizo lose the ability to make stuff for 4th edition because the GSL rules are hyper limiting and very much, in a lot of ways, similar to the leaked 1.1 OGL, but then they also lost the ability to sell those magazines because the license was pulled back from them, and they didn't effectively, Wizards didn't renew it with them. So they lost that too, and at that point they were like, I'm not sure if they already had it in the works. I don't work for Paizo. I don't know anything about Paizo from the internal standpoint, but then they came out with Pathfinder 1st edition. And effectively, the rest is history because 4th edition was so widely disliked by a lot of people. A lot of people already had tons and tons and tons of books of 3rd edition, 3.5. And Paizo's like, hey, we have this new system that uses those books. So you can use your thousands of dollars of collections of books that you bought. Yeah. You can still use in our game. And then that's when the paradigm shifted to Pathfinder for a long time.
Yeah, and Steve's 100% right. Between 2nd edition and 5th edition and 4th edition, like I think 10 years went by.
Long time.
A good portion of time, and this was again before PDFs, right? So everything that was released was hardbound books. So you were spending like $60-$70 a book, and people were buying books.
$50 to $60 a book.
Yeah, and so some people had thousands of dollars worth of collection. Ironically, that's exactly what's happening now. People have thousands of dollars worth of collections. And I'm
just looking up. So here's the thing. So 3rd edition came out. I'm just looking quick this up on Wiki here. 3rd edition came out sometime in 2000. 3.5, the revised edition came out in 2003, so it's 3 years right there. And then 4th edition came out in 2008. So we're talking about an 8-year time span for all of 3rd edition. We're including 3.5 in that. And then from 2008, so 5th edition came out in 2014. So that's another... So effectively, that's 14 years. If you're talking about the total time of 3rd edition, which includes Pathfinder 1st edition, that's from 2000 to 2003 for 3rd edition, and then from 2003 to 2014 for Pathfinder, approximately. So
you
Dragon Finder.
Yeah,
Blaze,
love it. But like, so it got bonkers, right? So collectively, people were like, "Yo, I'm gonna stick around." Also, like Pathfinder was fun, right? Like you had the ability, and it was great. And a lot of people broke their teeth on Pathfinder that got into that I play with, right? So they also, like, one of the cool things about Pathfinder, if you're out there getting into Pathfinder now, just FYI, all their lore is continual, right? Like Golarion is a continual system So things that happened in first edition has affected second edition, and we do know what happens in second edition will gradually affect third edition. The big thing that actually does, like, and this is what I love about Pathfinder, and this is for all the new people out there, play society. They have society online. I ran a few societies for PaizoCon when it was during the COVID eras. I do society missions at the tabletop cons out here in New York. Play society, because society actually affects the world,
and it has its own story.
It has its own story, and it's really cool. So every season, I think they're up to their 5th season now.
I have to look. I remember when I was playing first edition, they were up to like season 14 or 15, and then when Pathfinders 2 came out, they reset it to
they reset. Yeah, they reset. I think they're on 5th.
Yeah, it's possible. I haven't played in a long time. We need to go do that again.
Yeah, so each season, which is like usually a year, it has an overarching story. And now, if you're a person like a GM and you buy those seasons, you can see, and it says like, this is a story mission.
Yeah, so some of them aren't.
Some of them are just like one shots that like do whatever, but some of them are story missions where like.
Oh, hold on.
Did I disappear?
Yes,
my camera
disappeared.
Turned off. So, my camera auto turned off. How do I fix that, Steve?
Turn it off and turn it back on.
Turn it off and turn it on. Technical difficulties. I mean, I didn't have to pee or anything.
If that happens again, I'll have to. There might be a setting there, but it shouldn't turn off like that, unless you lost power on the camera. Can you still hear me? All right, we're in a little bit of technical issues, but
no, man, I got a gimp. What does make my knee hurts?
You're good, right? He doesn't have his headphones in. That's why. You're good, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can see myself now.
All right.
Sorry about that, everyone out there.
F chat for Jared. Hold on. There we go.
Damn it, Steve.
I
see you, Steve.
All right. So we're, like I said, for those of you just joining us, we are talking about the complete and utter chaos that wizards cause themselves with all of the BS that's been happening.
Yeah. So now history is repeating itself. Oh, here's another fun trivia part.
Trice it's repeating itself
3 times. Funny extra trivia. The owner of TSR, their last name is the exact same last name as the person
who's the president right now, I think, or
currently right now. The last names are exactly. There's no relations. They're not related. But I feel like from now on, Wizards WotC needs to like look at their last names and be like, sorry, we can't hire you. Not based on your merit or credentials or anything, but you have the same last name. And we've done this twice already. So we're not doing it anymore. So that's kind of like the history, right? So we had to go through the history to kind of like figure out where we are now, right? Like ironically, right? Like what's the saying? Those who forget the past are doomed to repeat it. And apparently no one at WotC, who I'm pretty sure have been around for quite some time, clearly don't. Oh my God, did my camera turn off again?
Yes, it did.
Is there something that happened? You
have to make sure that the thing keeps staying plugged in. If it's not plugged in, you might have
the battery plug.
No, did you have the battery in the system?
The battery is plugged in.
Take the battery out. Didn't I give you a dummy battery?
Yeah, that's what's in.
Oh, okay, and it's all plugged in.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's doing that, because mine stays on all the time.
That's so weird. Give me a second. Let me see what's going on. Oh, the DJ was going off about the OGL.
Who's going up? Oh. Oh, okay. So yeah, as Jared faces the camera, yeah. So effectively, Wizards decided to play the scorched earth policy, and it did not turn out well for them. So effectively, what happened is that they, back in the last year, Wizards decided to let loose that they're going to be changing the OGL, and some people were happy, some people were concerned, but they didn't say much more. And then in early January, of where we are now, around the 4th, apparently the OGL was leaked by accident.
Did that work?
Yeah, you're good now. You need to put your headphones in so you can hear me. Come on, get headphones. Headphones!
This is what happens when we don't pre-record, by the way.
Yeah. I was about to say, you need to put your headphones in so you can goddamn hear me. You're fine now.
Okay.
So I was just kind of going over the fact that in late 2022 is when Wizards was saying, hey, we're going to update the OGL and it'll be great. And then we hear, like, oh, we're going to do it sometime early January. And okay, and the first week of January, there was a leak. And the leak was the OGL.
1.1. Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, yeah. All right. So some people... Okay, so first thing, it was leaked by what was the name of that company? It was like the name of the company.
Cobalt Press.
No, it wasn't. A company leaked this. That Wizards was working with to write this. And they were looking at it and they were reviewing it. And I thought they leaked it.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of the company. There's so much information has come out. Effectively, this thing was leaked, and then people started losing their minds. And then two major things happened to confirm that this thing was at least partially official. Number one, because part of the OGL talked about if you're going to use a crowdfunded source. So we're going to show you some of these documents that have already been shown by multiple other streams. So there's nothing that I don't think we're going to get in trouble for any of this. But the first thing that happened was that, so obviously some companies received these with contracts and they with NDAs, so they couldn't talk about it without getting in trouble.
Yes.
So, and then the other thing is that the lead marketing person from Kickstarter had come out and said, part of the OGL, the new OGL, the 1.1 version of OGL, stated that if you use a crowdfunded service or if you make over $750,000, you had to pay 25% of your revenue.
Yeah.
Right.
If you made over 50.
Yeah. If you made to over $750,000, you had to pay 25% of your revenue for whatever product that is affected by this OGL, assuming you signed the OGL.
Mm-hmm.
If you did it through Kickstarter, which still counted as revenue, if you did it through Kickstarter, the percentage that you needed to pay was only 20%. So that indicated that there was a private agreement already made from Wizards to Kickstarter.
Yes, the owner of Kickstarter was like, I had a fight to get this lowered because...
So they confirmed it.
Yeah, so this kind of ties into the whole situation of everything, because the owner of Kickstarter, once it was leaked, the owner was like, I can talk about this because F this noise, it's already out there.
Yeah.
So the owner was like, one of the higher ups on the Kickstarter team was just like, yeah, I had to fight. It wasn't the owner,
but it was one of the higher ups that had to do with like revenue or something.
Yes, and they were like, "Yeah, we had a fight to get this fixed." Because
it was in their own best interest too to get the cut down from 25 to 20% because it entices more people to go to Kickstarter. I mean, even though they're the biggest game in town, it entices even more people. Which is not necessarily, if you actually think about it, it's not necessarily a great thing because competition breeds innovation. And if you're having one company that's cheaper than everybody else and they just happen to also be the biggest company, that could lead to some problems down the road. Most likely that this OGL is not going to survive. But what we're going to do is we're going to flip over to this screen here. Ooh. And this is from BattleZoo's website. This is for Roll for Combat, had put this on their website for people to download and look at. And this is what was initially leaked And like I said, included in some companies' contracts. Like I said, we don't.
Yes.
What companies? Like I said, they have NDAs, so they're not really who got it doesn't matter.
Can't say.
But
yeah,
he made sure that this was okay to show. So a couple people have already shown this. So a couple of things we got to look at here, and if you guys can see it here, it's like a license right here. So crowdfunding is considered commercial use. That's number one. So this talks about what considers commercial use. If you have a Patreon or a subscription service, that's also considered commercial, which means it all adds up to that $750,000 number. And like I said, if you guys want to read this, if you guys want to download your own copy, if I can copy this link, I'm going to get this in here. I think this is okay for me to post in here. We're going to find out. We're going to find out real fast.
we're checking the chart
if any of this is okay.
We can F around and then we'll find out.
Yeah, let's trim this here. There we go. Let's just do this. Let's do this number. All right, there we go. All right, so first things first, if you make over 750,000, this is when when you start owing Wizards money. Let's see here. There's a lot of there's also a lot of jargon, not jargon, but like fluff stuff in here too that doesn't really add to the legal nature of this.
No.
But it also goes into talking about what's commercial, what's not commercial. So obviously they even though if they might want to, they can't come to your house and say your private game needs to pay 25% to Wizards of the Coast, although they might want you to. It tells you what content you can use, what content you can't use. But there's a couple of things that are kind of damning in this. So comments, I'm trying to find it here.
So here's
Jared.
the thing. What happened?
Go ahead. No, I want you to go ahead and talk while I look at this.
Yeah. So basically, this was leaked, right? So this was about a week ago. This was leaked. This stuff was all leaked.
A week and a half.
A week and a half ago. Sorry. So this was all leaked. Then people, people who are cooler than us with like thousands and thousands of subs, were getting leaked internal documents from Wizards of the Coast employees. And again, please, if you're on Twitter and you're listening to this later, don't harass the employees. The employees are trying to fight for us. Like, they're one of us, right? Like, they're like, yo, this is like a dream job. I don't want to see this burn up. These are all the C-suite executives, right?
We think that's an assumption.
I definitely want to say this is not coming from like the mailroom guy.
I would agree with you. We don't know. And I'm trying not to get in trouble.
I'm going to say
right now,
it's definitely not coming from mailroom people, right? Like,
you got that one pissed off mailroom click because I want my money.
I need my dollars. So please don't harass the Wizards of the Coast community. Harass Wizards and Hasbro. Don't harass them personally.
And I wouldn't harass any. Okay, number one, don't harass anybody. But if you do want to send a message on either on their forums, or you want to tweet at them, you want to send a message on Instagram, do it. If you want to be nice, but be firm about not liking this. And they've already effectively made a response to it. We're going to get to that. But they technically made a response. Too little, too late, but they made a response. But here you can talk. It talks about like all the different tiers. If you haven't made, if you've made $50,000, this is what applies to you. What tier you are. There's an intermediate tier, basically between 50,000 and 750,000, and then the expert tier is just really where the problems arise. But there's actually problems in every tier. There's problems in every tier.
Every effing tier.
But
there's problems in like the basic bitch tier, which is what me and Steve are in. NVNG is in the basic bitch tier, and we would have gotten in trouble with them. That's how terrible this new OGL is.
So right here. So we're talking about this 20 or 25% thing. This is right here. Royalties. If you and only you are generating a significant amount of money, over $750,000 per year, so you could have a single Kickstarter and a Patreon and something else, and that's it. Like, you're really like, some of these Kickstarters are well over $750,000, or maybe you only make $500,000. But then you have a bunch of people on Patreon. It's all this stuff combined. It's not just one product. It's everything you do throughout the entire year.
but it's also on your gross, and that's the worst part. They talked about it. It's across, and it's excess, and it's basically on your gross income, and that's the problem. And that's why a lot of third-party people were like, what are you talking about, Willis? Because gross is different than profit, right? So if I make a product, right? Like NVNG comes out with the NVNG Guide to the Multiverse 5th edition, right? And it makes $750,000 on Kickstarter.
They do a Kickstarter. Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah. Let's say it makes $750,000 on Kickstarter. That's gross, because then we have to pay for all, like, this wasn't just me and Steve, right? Like, to make that much money, usually you have a lot of big people behind you, right? So that's all the writers,
Kickstarter
that's the
fees.
editors, Kickstarter fees, that's the artists, that's the painters, that's the bookbinders, that's the people who convert it into PDF,
shipping,
that's
tax.
tax, and so all that 750 isn't like, oh, we just made have like almost $1 million. It's okay, out of everything we do, how much is going to be left to pay the company?
Well,
because remember,
let's even think of it this way. Let's say we made $1 million. Let's just say we rounded up to $1 million. It's a nice round number to deal with, and we're 5 people, right? You divide that now. Effectively, let's assume that we're doing everything ourselves. We have to before all the fees and the taxes and all the other BS. We're still dividing that number by 5. Right? If we're saying this is revenue to us because we spent all this time in making this product, that's still like divided by 5. So like each person's not making all that much money. Then you add in the taxes, the fees. If we're making physical products, Kickstarter gets their cut, and all this stuff. And you realize that when you start actually realizing it, that this number, however much you make of all this, like I'm trying to get in camera here, all this money that you make in Kickstarter is really starting to dwindle down to like, this is how much what we have to spend on our actual thing. And then some of that in there maybe is like profit, but mostly Kickstarter, most of these Kickstarters don't really make money. It's really a lot of it to get the product off the ground, and a lot of it to get the name recognition out there to have other people come to our store and buy it.
To continue it, yeah. And truthfully, you know, and you still have to pay taxes on everything. That's the other thing we forget, right? That's just the crazy part is, right? So the $1 million, and you still have to pay taxes on $1 million to the United States government or whatever government you're making this in. But we're gonna say United States or Canada, right? Those are like probably the 2 big ones coming out, right? So or the UK. So you still have to pay taxes, and depending on what country you're in, taxes could be a little bit or they could be a lot of bit. So that $1 million, everyone's probably maybe making 50 grand and $1 million. And that's and not like me and Steve taking home 50 grand. That's like the company made $50,000, which is dramatically smaller. And again, we're hyperinflating these numbers. Most Kickstarters are like 3 dudes, like me, Steve, and our friend Blaze, sat down and we made like how to play Age of Sigmar in Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. We convert characters, right? And it's us sitting there, and then I get my 4-year-old son to draw the stuff, and we sell maybe $15. You know what I mean? That's what most of this is. But because we sold, we now need to. And then this was the other thing. Now, because we sold and we made money, we then now need to tell Wizards of the Coast, hey, this is how much we make, and here are our records. And this was where it became really predatory. They wanted to see your monetary records, not on stuff you made for 5th edition, but they wanted to see your company's everything. It wasn't like just one thing, it was the everything. It was like, oh, you made something for 5th edition, we get to look at your records. And then people were like, what do you mean my records? And then they say, we get to see your records. Not like we get to see the stuff that you made for 5th edition. So we get to look at all your records. Because then, as Darth Vader says, because there's a later clause that says they can terminate within 30 days. So they can look at your records, see how much money your company as a whole is making, then they can make an offer to you, right? Like the mob, because this is strong arm tactics, like the effing mob. And then they could go, well, we saw your company, and it looks like, yeah, you only made 50 grand off of that Kickstarter. And then, but your Patreon is giving you another 10 grand a year, and your side business, your YouTube revenue is looking like this. So it looks like you're making 100 grand a year. So in our contract, if you want to keep working for Dungeons and Dragons, you're gonna have to pay 5% royalties on all that. Like your whole company is gonna have to give us 5% royalties.
Yeah,
which is low. Yeah. That's the most predatory thing I've ever heard. Like no other companies ever like, oh, you made one commercial for the Dodge van, the newest 2023 Dodge car. You now need to let us see all your records for your entire company.
Yeah,
like that. No one else ever says that.
And there's two other major problems, and Jared kind of touched on one of them. Is the termination and modification policy. Is right here, if you can see. It said this section here is a disagreement may be modified or terminated. Modification disagreement along with the OGL non-commercial, an update to previous OGL, which is here. And here's the biggest thing: the original OGL 1.0, 1.0A. Like I said, 1.0A was just a slight addendum, and it kind of clarified a couple of things, which effectively was. I mean, during the time of the 1.0A, you could still choose to just publish under 1.0, and some people did. So, but effectively, they tried to unauthorize or deauthorize all the old OGLs. You couldn't publish under them. So that was another big thing about this. It tried to effectively invalidate an effective, like, yet again, not a lawyer, not giving legal advice, but an effectively, and what most people have said, and even lawyers have looked at this, and obviously in their opinion, it was their opinion, no court of law had said this yet, was designed to not end. Was designed to not be able to be terminated, not to be unauthorized. In theory, most people agree that this couldn't be unauthorized. What effectively they're doing couldn't be done. But this agreement says that this unauthorizes those prior agreements. Yeah. And they could also modify or terminate this agreement for any reason whatsoever, provided they give 30 days notice. So remember we said, like, some people were saying, oh, $750,000. Look, you are making a lot of money. It is D&D's product. Okay, maybe 25 or 20% is an extreme number, which a lot of these margins are so tight that is an untenable number. Maybe if they just adjusted that number a little bit. Okay, well, you adjust the number. They send a 30-day notice. Right. Okay, well, let's say MVNG did a Kickstarter and we made $50,000. Right? We put in the product, and since we're under the $750,000 threshold, we don't really owe Wizards any money. And then Wizards says, oh, that Kickstarter did kind of well. They write a little addendum and they send it to NVNG, and NVNG gets letter and goes, oh, they're lowering the threshold to the royalties to $25,000. So now we're applicable to the 25%, which we may not have because we didn't intend to. We may have already spent that money to make the product that we were making because we didn't anticipate these 25% royalty cut. Or they could just terminate the license and say, okay, well, you made this product, people paid you, you can't now release that product because we're terminating the license. You're not allowed to do that product. In what world is this an okay thing to do?
Yeah. Now, so this came out, right? So all of this came out. Steve, I believe I sent you one of the greatest, the only way to describe the termination and the concept of the whole termination. I sent it in chat to you. But basically, it's the Darth Vader.
Pray I don't alter it further.
Yeah, pray I don't alter this even further. Like, that is, like, they are so unaware, like, self-unaware of what they're doing. Like, how did no one at, like, WotC, like, not read this and go, guys, do you know we're literally putting in the cause of Darth Vader? Like, we could just put a link to that, like, clip. Like, we could make a YouTube clip and then just say that, like, check this link to understand this. So yeah,
there was one other thing that was a major problem. I'm trying to find it. It was the whole thing of, like, they get a perpetual license to all your stuff that you submit under 1.1.
That was the last huge thing. Basically, they said anything you make for 5th edition perpetually becomes ours. Way later.
They really clarify it, and it's not that it becomes Wizards of the Coast. You technically still own it, But the license you're signing effectively gives them rights to do whatever the hell they want with it.
Yep.
Yeah, here it is. Here, I found it. Okay, you own the new and original content you create. Okay, sounds reasonable because we did create it, or whoever created it, whatever company they created it. But here's the big one. You agree to give us meaning Wizards of the Coast, a non-exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, worldwide sub-license, royalty-free, sub-licensable, royalty-free license to use that content for any purpose. Use that content for any purpose could be to sell it. Yeah. Okay, like I said, we just had a bajillion dollar Kickstarter and we made this really cool product. Wizards goes, oh man, we need to get our hands on that. So since we submitted it with 1.1, Wizards sends that 30-day letter, says you're terminated. But since it's already under the license, they can go, okay, we're going to sell this on D&D Beyond for $1 million. They effectively made $1 million for nothing.
Yeah.
For no work. They didn't put any work in, but we signed over a right to that. But obviously, we didn't sign this. God forbid. But those are the three big problems. One, you effectively give a license to the Wizards of the Coast to use this in any way they see fit. They can change and or terminate your license within 30 days notice. And you have to pay an exorbitant amount in fees, in licensing fees. That's really the major problem. And obviously, people were a little unhappy about this.
Man, they got their pitchforks and they just came like it was something to do.
Angry mobs.
And they had the right. They should have. Because I read this and I was like, yo, MVNG doesn't even come close to any of these numbers. But after reading this, I was like, yeah, we're not playing anyone. I was concerned. I was like, do we have to take down? And everyone was rightly concerned. Do we have to take down the YouTube videos? Like what happens there? So long story short, basically this came out a week ago. More stuff from the internal documents were leaked. That was all over Twitter, basically saying, yeah, like Hasbro, the higher ups only care about like the D&D Beyond subscriptions. That spurned the stop the sub, the hashtag stop the sub, hashtag D&D be gone.
Hashtag free, was it free D&D or
free open D&D?
Open D&D, open D&D,
hashtag open D&D. And people canceled, and big people canceled, not like little people,
and a lot of people.
And tons of people canceled, and like a lot of people canceled, like nerd immersion,
I actually watched the stream.
Shorts, Mr. Rexix, I don't know, Jordan PH did, I know Jenny D did, so
DM Lair I think did too.
DM Lair,
I think I watched the stream when he did it on stream.
Yeah, he did it live. So these are like big people in the community who are massive pushers. So they did all this, right? So WotC said nothing. The community said a lot. We said a lot. Everyone said a lot, right? WotC said nothing. Then it started with the first post that changed that everyone was. So the only way I could put this is like this: everyone was living in harmony. WotC attacked, and everyone said, fuck this shit, I'm out. First person to go, Cobalt Press, one of the largest third-party publishers. First out the gate, they were like, fuck this noise, we're out. Sorry,
and they're making their own system, I believe.
They're making their own system. It's called Project Black Flag. It sounds fun, right? We don't know anything about it. It's obviously not going to be out, and it will probably be getting beta testing late 2024 if they push hard enough. And then probably 2025, the more and more stuff will come out about it. But, keep an eye on here at MVNG. We're going to look into it because we play games. That's what we do. That's our
MCDM also said they're going to make their own system.
And then MCDM, but he did say in his article, in his conversation, he did say this was prepped already. This wasn't in response to...
It was and it wasn't. It was and it wasn't, because there was a couple of prior interviews and streams that he was on where he talked about this, and he goes, it is only a matter of time before they do something like this.
Yeah.
And so it's not that this specific event at this specific time spurred him on to do this, but he kind of like saw the writing on the wall. So he was prepping for the writing on the wall, and this just accelerated his plans to create the Death Star, effectively.
Yeah. Effectively, he was like, listen, man, like, we can't, like, this is a good time. So they said, MCDM was like, yep, we're going to do it. Even in the article I read from comicbook.com, they said like they had just started working.
Yeah.
So it sounds dope. I love that stuff. And so that was like 3 days ago. It feels like forever at this point. That was like 2 or 3 days ago.
So before any response, so we had a rumor that a response was coming. I think that D&D had stated, I don't know exactly where this was, but a lot of people were saying that they stated they were going to live stream.
No, okay, so that's a different thing. That happened yesterday.
Yeah, that never happened.
Yeah, but so basically, yesterday, well, not just that, but like, so basically you had those companies coming out and saying they're going to do their own thing. Other companies started following suit and saying we're going to do our own thing. So a lot of people started jumping ship. Then yesterday, I don't know, there was like an internal leak. People were saying that they were going to like address it.
Oh, that was an internal leak? I didn't know that.
Well, it was very much not 100% guaranteed, but they said on their calendar they had a D&D stream prepped. And then it got canceled. People were waiting for the stream. People were like live streaming, waiting for the stream, because I was at work watching Nerd Immersion, live streaming, waiting for the stream.
Yep.
And I was just like, yo, I want to see what happens, right? I was like, I'm not here. I'm at work. I can watch this while I'm at work, while I'm doing everything.
Got the one earbud in, like
exactly. I had my Bluetooth earbud. I have Bluetooth, so I was able to like listen and like keep working in the office. And time came and passed, and then people waited, and then there was rumors that they were going to come on later. The unfounded rumors that they were going to come on at like 5 o'clock, and then people were like, no, 7:30. And people were on, and then Roll for Combat came on, and they were on waiting for the live stream. And people were like, yo, just wait, trust us, just wait. And
nothing.
They kept waiting, and then nothing. And then that night, Paizo just fired all. Paizo hit the button. They were like,
Paizo fired the broadside.
They did. They fucking hit the button. They launched, and they announced the open game, their version of an open game license.
Effectively, they did their own version of the OGL.
Yeah, which they're calling the ORC.
The Open RPG Creative License, or the ORC, or the ORC.
The ORC. So ORC. So it's been confirmed. Wizards, not Wizards, like Wizards have had a PR press, and they are actually the villains, and orcs were always the good guys. This entire was confirmed. Orcs have always been the good guy. It was just bad PR on their part. And Wizards were technically the bad guys. This whole time we've been lied to.
So a lot of this article goes into the idea, goes into the fact that a lot of the people, there's a couple of people at high end at Paizo who worked at Wizards at the time the OGL was created, as well as the lawyer team that Paizo is working with now, was the lawyer group that wrote the original OGL.
Yeah, that penned it.
Yeah, and they were going into, none of them thought in a million years that the OGL in any form was revocable by the company that holds it. It was written in such a way that shouldn't be possible. Yet again, that you can feel however you want, you can think how the law is going to go until like the lawyers really hash it out in court. Nothing is set in stone. Yeah. But a lot of people who, like, when they were there when it was written, they thought that this was revocable.
What's the thing from Narnia, right? Don't recite the old laws to me. I was there when they were penned, right? With the lion, Aslan.
Yeah.
They were there. They were there when it was penned. So so they were there. Their open role-playing system, whatever C stands for, compendium, whatever.
Creative license.
Creative license, right? The ORC. Basically, the cool thing was, they're putting it in the hands of a third party, the lawyers.
Yeah.
So the ORC is not in the hands of Paizo. Those who sign onto it agree to use this, and it has multiple Green Ronin, Chaosium.
Yeah, I got the list here.
Hammer, tons. Cobalt Press, I think, joined in with them.
Yep. Rogue Genius Games, and a bunch of other people.
Roll for Combat, Rogue Genius Games. Cobalt Press, Green Ronin, Legendary Games, a ton of them jumped on this, and basically it will not be owned by Paizo, nor will it be owned by any company who makes money publishing RPGs. The lore, ownership of the processing, and stewardship should provide a safe harbor against any company being bought or sold. So this isn't going to be like, you're not going to be able to buy this, right? Like the lawyers won't be able to sell or buy this. It's just kind of like an ethereal thing that will just hopefully stand the test of time. Now, this is the problem with law, and this is the good and bad of law and the way we've created as a society, the way we've created law. Laws are mutable and ever changing. That's something that's a great thing, right? That's something that's amazing and makes for a wonderful society, because a law that was written 50 years ago can be changed and evolved. Now, the reason why I bring that up is the open game license, when it was written, the language of the law had stated this is how you write something that should be in kind of moving forward and infinite.
Yeah, in perpetuity, right?
In perpetuity. But that term wasn't used in it. What happened was
they never gave a final term, or they never said it was irrevocable. That was the word that they was missing from the, because
not said it's irrevocable.
Yeah, but the reason that they never used that language is because back then they never thought that needed that language, because the way of the now there's a lot of, yet again, the OGL isn't written in such a way that normal people can't understand it, but there's just the way the language is written. Everyone was under the assumption that this doesn't end.
Blaze says Wizards buys Azora Law, now currently owns the ORG.
Yeah.
Sorry. But yeah, like, so basically the way they wrote the original OGL, they didn't write like it was in perpetuity. It couldn't be revoked. But because of that, laws have changed. The language of the laws have changed in time to where we are. So what was written in 2003,
2002 or 3?
2002, 20 years later.
2000, I'm sorry.
2000, sorry.
It's been in effect at least 22 years.
Yeah, so 22 years later, the laws have changed and the language of the laws have changed. And I'm assuming that's what Wizard looked at and said, we can attack this from a legal standing. And then, that's the reason why they feel like they have a leg to stand on with this whole OGL 1.0, 1.1, and now the OGL 2.0, which is something we'll get to in a few moments. But yes, so last night, Paizo broadside just came out the gate, said we're launching nukes, and all these other companies said we're supporting Paizo. Paizo was just like fucking nukes. I'm swearing now. We're over our time limit. YouTube can kiss it. But yeah,
going into a little bit more information on this is obviously Pathfinder First Edition was made specifically using stuff from the original OGL 1.0A or 1.0. Yeah. So in theory, under the new terms of this OGL that was never released, this 1.1 version, they couldn't really release Pathfinder First Edition. Now, for those of you who don't know, Pathfinder has gone on for a long time, and they have come out recently with 3 years ago now, right? It's been a while. It's been a while.
3 or 4 years ago. Now,
Pathfinder came out with their second edition. Their second edition of the rules. The key point of this is that they published the second edition rules. Pathfinder under the 1.0A license, but in a clear thing that at least they've said. Now, some people have questions about whether this is 100% true or not, but what Paizo is saying is that they didn't have to.
Yes.
Meaning that there's nothing in Pathfinder second edition that is using the stuff that the 1.0A license actually grants them. But the reason that they did this is what they explained is so other people can use second edition in using the 1.0A license, which kind of ties everything together. This is the whole point. And a lot of things that people realize, we talked about 4th edition a while back. And for a long time, Dungeons & Dragons wasn't a name that people really recognized as thought of as like the prime game for role-playing because it was doing so poorly. But things like third-party publishers coming out with stuff, things like Pathfinder keeps making stuff. So if Pathfinder, if it's okay for you to run it in Pathfinder First Edition, it's most likely for you to okay to run it in Third Edition. It's okay for you to run it in 3.5, which kept D&D relevant, even though D&D or Wizards of the Coast wasn't actually making money because they were making a system that wasn't doing well. They were still making money because people were still interested in the system. So when 5th edition came out, people jumped at the bit to get to the new system and were waiting for a new D&D. That only happens because other people are making stuff for the system because of the OGL the original OGL.
But, OGL.
Yeah. With this new open license that Pies was coming out with, effectively puts 2nd edition in its own license, in which they are saying, if we don't like the new OGL, we're just going to rip that thing out and we don't need it. And we can put our own in there, which is like amazing. Yeah. I honestly thought that wasn't true. And apparently they're saying it's true. So they've either forgot something or they talked to the lawyers and said, no, you don't actually use it.
Yeah. A lot of the OGL that people would argue for Pathfinder, they do not use it.
And they've been distancing themselves with other products. They said in their other products as well, like the adventure card game and their novels and a lot of stuff. They've been distancing themselves from the OGL content for a while, so that kind of makes sense. Yeah. And they know better than we do, so we're going to take them at their word, and that's for lawyers to figure out. But
yeah, I don't get paid enough to have this argument. But no, I've actually gotten to speak with them, not lately, but I got to run a stream and they were on it a few times and stuff like that. So like I said, it got confusing. Basically at this point, the ORG looks to be like the standard, and then today, I was early in the morning. I made a short talking about some more leaks from D&D, and basically
D&D Shorts was the channel that was breaking these leaks.
Yeah, D&D Shorts was breaking these, and basically the thing talked about like the OGL 2.0 and how basically it was even worse and more draconian than the OGL 1.1. They just cleaned up a lot of stuff. Now, then
still at this point, we still have yet to hear from any response to Wizards of the Coast.
Wizards has yet to say shit, and at this point, it's gone to pot. Like the Twitter done. The eggs, bacon, and Dunions, they're just out. Everyone's outside their minds. I hang around on Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I love playing Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I'm on the Facebook Pathfinder 2nd Edition groups, and like the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Facebook group had just today 52 new members join, and mostly they said mostly we get like 5 to 10 today. 52 new members jumped in, and that was when they posted it, and that was earlier today. So that just lets you like people are jumping ship. And again, this is a two-sided coin, right? So this is terrible for companies and third-party publishers, because you have to think of it, right? Yes, we're talking about like huge people like Ginny D and Roll for Combat and Nerdarchy and Nerd and the companies that in MCDM that are making thousands. But most of the people that will be super affected by everything and D&D 5e on fire are the small small publishers, where it's like 4 people who have really great ideas, who are releasing stuff and putting it up on Kickstarter, and they're getting $5,000, just enough to cover their overhead and have like a few brews, and that's it. And what's happening is going to kill them. And it's great that but now they have to learn a whole new system and come over to the newest system that they can handle. And let's say it's Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which I won't be mad at, but let's say they come over. So Pathfinder 2nd Edition has been out, and there's been so many great people in this community already doing stuff, making, like, we had friends of ours in our channel make an entire class for one of our players, the Inquisitor class. Check it out. Steve has the links. We'll post the links in the description. But yeah, we'll get to that in a little bit. But it was the Inquisitor class. So that's something that was already created. And sure, like a third-party person could make their own Inquisitor class. But you understand what I'm saying? Like, at this point, they're now fighting an uphill battle. They're starting from scratch again.
Not only that, but because obviously we have Green Ronin saying they're coming out with their own system. We have MCDM coming with their own system. We haven't. I don't think there has been a response from Critical Role.
But just I'll talk about it. They just responded.
I did not know that there was even a response. But
moments ago, Steve.
I had to tell the future. I literally had no idea. As far last I checked, they didn't make a response.
Yes, you're right. You're 100% right. But yes,
but you have all these people. Whether they say they're going to make a new system, whether they're going to jump on another system. What the problem with this is? Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying burn Wizards to the ground and destroy them. It's a lot of people have been saying, look, it's not the game. It's these higher ups that are trying to squeeze money out of every single person.
Yeah,
but it's going to hurt the brand, and it is hurting the brand. And some of this damage may not come back for many, many years. The other problem is, like you said, these small creators. You know, okay, so D&D was seen by hundreds of millions of people, and this may not affect it that much. But even if they come up with a new OGL 2.0, it may be almost as bad as the 1.1. We haven't seen any final details yet because Wizards hasn't released any final details yet. They said they're going to come out with it soon. No, but even if they go to one of these other systems, there's going to be less eyes on it, period. Which means less eyes on it, which means less money is going to be flooding into these systems, which means less money is going to be flooding into their pockets, which may make it to where these people can't support their businesses and their employees and their livelihood to be able to continue making the products that they like making.
Yeah, and most of the people out there that are doing this stuff, they are like us. They work a 9 to 5, and they have families and they have kids, and they come home and they just want to give back to the community that because they love so much, right? Like anyone who does this YouTube stuff, anyone who does this doesn't do it for the money. That period. No one starts this and is like, I'm gonna make bank, right? Like no one who does this, like the tabletop gaming role playing, doesn't do it for the cash. Because you get your Matt Colvilles, your Critical Roles, your Ginny D's. For every one, there's 100,000 that didn't make it that way, right? And we're one of those 100,000, right? So those people, like you do it for the love of the game, right? And you don't do it for any other reason. If you make money, sure, that's fine. One day Steve won't have to go to his 9 to 5. He could just stay home and edit the bad videos I send him. But like that's what I'm saying is like this. The worst part of this, everything that's happening. Yeah, it's awesome to watch a major corporation fucking burn. Like I love it. Anarchy, burn it. Eat the rich. But like, I know this is going to hurt so many more people, and that's why like I make these videos, I make these like shorts, talking about the news every time more breaking news happens. But like,
it's been a lot.
I know this is hurt. Like this is going to hurt so many more little guys, but like little corporations, right? And that's the one thing that like sucks the most, right? Like I don't think a lot of these videos, I think many people talk about it, but like skim over it. I just want to highlight this. Please, like go out and buy from these third-party publishers now. And just grab up as much as you can before the OGL apocalypse hits them harder, because they need as much as support as you can. And obviously don't break the bank. You gotta eat. Prices milk is like $10 a gallon.
Yeah.
Don't break yourself helping. But like if you can, do. And if you can't, just shout them out on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Instatalk, on Snapchat, WhatsApp. Like I get those WhatsApp like, hey, spam things. So just start spamming people like, hey, have you heard the good word about this third-party publisher?
Now, and what it boils down to is a lot of us are mad about this, right? We're mad that all this went down. And but this, I will say, for every one of us that's like, oh my God, I can't believe Wizards did this, there's gonna be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 people that don't care. They'd be like, I play D&D and that's it.
Yeah.
So
and you have the right to do that. Please, by all means.
Yeah, if you want to keep playing, you want to keep your D&D Beyond account. If you spent the money, I can imagine some people have spent I've been seeing people in various Twitch streams or YouTube streams, whatever. It's like I have $1,000 worth of RPG books on my wall now that I can't use, or I have how much money sucked into D&D Beyond, or I've all this money on Roll20 or whatever streaming VTT they use, and all these assets and stuff I've bought all the time, and it sucks. It just sucks all around. Yeah. So it's not, we're not telling you, go stop, look, if you want to stop supporting this company, stop supporting this company. I'm just saying that at the end of the day, it hurts everybody. Everyone gets screwed by this.
Yeah. Truthfully, NVNG didn't invest a ton into 5th edition, because I knew when we started NVNG, we wanted it to be a broad gaming group. So we play a lot of things. You'll see we play Runehammer. We're playing Dragonbane right now. We did 5th edition Spelljammer, because who doesn't want to do magic in space? Index card RPG. We did Call of Cthulhu, which is awesome. We're doing Vassin. So our company branches out to everything. We kind of right now, actually, I'm reading, and it's pretty awesome. The cover, this book is just so effing awesome. But this is the tabletop role-playing game of Dark Crystal.
Oh, that's not Dark Crystal book, okay.
Yeah, right? It's a beautiful book. And they have a tabletop role-playing game of it. So I'm doing a review of it. I'm going to get through it and do a review and force my players to do a one-shot with me.
We're also going to be doing Transformers at some point?
And Transformers is another one.
Wait. Yes, this is going to be a review that's going to happen at some point, but I have the first ever module. It's called the Beacon of Hope. Which I'm going to do a review on at some point. And also, I'm probably going to review this. This is the actual DM screen. Oh, Windblade. The actual DM. Awesome. Oh, I'm going to eat you. So that's... So, I mean, we do a variety of things. So,
yeah, we are the variety channel.
Yeah, so we're not really... I don't think that...
This isn't our fight. Honestly, NVNG as a whole... We could have taken a step back and been like, "No, not our boat, not our problem." But we're part of the community, and that's why we're coming out so hard. And we're like, "Yo, we are going hard."
And who knows? Maybe in the future we actually do want to publish something. Right now we haven't really published anything. No. We've done some first edition conversions of Pathfinder 1st edition to 2nd edition, just because. It's fun. So we like some of the writing from their 1st edition stuff, but maybe we do eventually want to come out with our own world or own world book or whatever. And this problem affects us not just now, but it affects everyone in the future.
In the far-flung future of 2015. Remember that? Remember those cartoons where they're like, in the year 1995, the moon has shattered.
Dude, what was it? What were the movies? Escape from LA? Escape from New York? In the future of 1999. What? Yeah. That was 20 years ago.
Yeah. Or Back to the Future, we surpassed, and I still don't have a fucking hoverboard. I'm just talking. I'm sorry.
You're so jaded.
I'm so jaded by that. Where is my hoverboard, Doc Brown? What's going on? What's going on, Victor Johnson? The old Heartbreaker games from the 80s and 90s. You use it for inspiration. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, buy from the and Temple Base is Noble Templars is buy from the little guys and increase their growth so they can attract wizards' attention. Yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah. And also I think so. So we are going a bit off topic, but we're just chatting.
Always.
This is more.
There's nothing you cannot prevent the derailment that is us. Derailment.
Yeah.
For those of you interested, if you wanted, sorry, 2001: Space Odyssey. I was actually just talking about that movie. But for those of you ever actually wanted, we did work with this creator to actually create the 2nd edition class. This is the Drive-Thru RPG link. If you guys are interested in looking at it.
Escape from Florida.
This is the 2nd edition conversion of the Inquisitor class. It's never really made it. It kind of made it now with the what's that class? With the Thaumaturge. With the Thaumaturge, but this is the version of the Inquisitor that we kind of made, and we kind of helped made. I'm not saying it's the same. I'm saying it's the closest representation you're gonna get. But the Attuned Inquisitor by Attuned Wizard Press.
Yeah. That we super small. They're great. We're friends with them. They're a small publisher. They do small publishing things.
We don't get any money from that. Just keep in mind, we don't get any money from that. It's just something that we wanted them. We actually commissioned them to make it, but we don't make any money off of it. They make all the money off of it.
They were like, so how do you want to do this financially? And I was like, I want to give you money to write something for me, and then I don't care. And that's literally the way the conversation was. Steve was on this. He was like, okay. And I was like, yeah, I'm doing this out of pocket. I just want to play this class. But yeah, like, you know, so like a lot of this stuff is really so basically to double back. I was stalling for time for Steve to get that link up there, by the way.
Oh, you sent me a link?
No, to get the tune
yes.
link. But not a problem. So circling back to the whole WotC stuff. So this morning we had a ton of stuff happen, and finally today D&D Beyond releases a statement, and I like 200% of it is just terrible. It's so terrible. Oh my god.
So the funny story about this, I was listening to a stream while I was feverishly doing stuff at work, and then I can't. What was it? Brutal Richard on Twitch.
Me and Steve need to like work together because like we're texting at like
So yeah. I'm listening to Brutal Richard. I have one headphone in and I'm working my butt off today. I'm doing all my work and then I'm listening on it, and then I hear someone. So Brutal Richard's reading out some chat, and then someone goes, "Oh, Wizards just made an announcement." I stop what I'm doing 100%, pick up my phone. I'm like, I gotta find out what the fuck just happened. Yeah. And I literally just sent like, Jared, I didn't read this. Here's Wizard's response, and I just sent it to him. I think I sent it to you in the middle of you making an actual short.
Yes. Oh my god, I had to cancel the original short. I was making a short on my phone. So when you're making a short on your phone, right? Because I do it live. I'm like in my car like this with my phone, so it looks janky. That's why like there's pauses and like I flip because I'm like I gotta make this look fun.
All right. Well, here it is. We're gonna flop to the screen. This is the official announcement. Let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger for you guys.
It's so terrible.
No, that's fine.
I don't even. I can't. So what can be said has been said, right? So much has been said, and basically what this boils down to is the most terriblest PR statement in the history of terriblest PR statement. I don't understand who was right. Like, you waited too long. That like, firstly, you waited too long.
Well, number one. So yeah, let's just read this out first, and then we're gonna rip it apart as we go. But so obviously this was sent 12 hours ago today. This is over a week and a half after the initial leak happened. So if you'd think to yourself, before we get into this, you'd think that if the initial leak was not true, you'd figure that Wizard would quash it like real quick. But crickets. Then more stuff came out. Crickets. More stuff came out. Pies is coming out. This was coming out. We're all gonna do this. We're gonna do this. This is like Wizards made no response. There was a rumor of the live stream that never happened. This is like the more you don't talk about it and at least clear the air of what's going on, the worse it's gonna get. But all right, so this is when we initially conceived of revising. When they initially conceived of revising the OGL, three major things were in mind. First, we wanted the ability to prevent the use of D&D content from being including hateful and discriminatory products. I would like, no offense, I'm going to stop them right here. I would like them to show me an example of someone doing this with the original OGL. Show me an example of someone trying to use the license in a way that harms using hateful or discriminatory products, because I can't think of one.
I'm not part of a lot of that the outside drama. I think that has to deal with I think people made stuff, possibly made stuff. It might have to deal with Wendy's. Remember Wendy's? I'm not throwing Wendy's under the bus, but Wendy's did make their own universe.
Yeah, but that was fun. The based on the kind of food you eat. If you didn't eat Wendy's food, you got disadvantage on stuff. That was supposed to be humorous.
I don't think that was what they were going for. I'm assuming somewhere out there someone did something. I don't know. I can't give you a guarantee, but I'm going to make the assumption that maybe let's look at some of this stuff, right? That's a possibility where they're hey, listen,
yet again,
you don't want someone to write a game about the rise of the hero, the you know, the like evil villain character, and that, you know, and it's a, you know what I mean? Like, I get that they're just trying to be like,
I will say that if someone did something that is hateful and or discriminatory, that's the exception, not the rule. But you don't punish the community as a whole because of an exception. That's my whole thing. Well, okay, we only got through the first sentence and I'm already getting pissed.
I'm ready, man.
Second, we wanted to address those attempting to use D&D in Web3, blockchain, and NFTs, while making clear that the OGL content is limited to tabletop or role-playing content like campaigns, modules, and supplements.
Okay, so that actually happened. And I know it actually happened because they spoke. The creator from Nerd Immersion spoke about it. It was an NFT group that did reach out to him. Reach out to them. I'm assuming their pronouns, but they did reach out to the person from Nerd Immersion, and they didn't sign up to it. But
here's the question: did they steal the Wizards' copyright?
They were using copyrightable material, but here's the problem: NFTs. The argument with NFTs is like art, like what we're doing. So they were arguing. So they got into so the company did get shut down, but the argument there was because it was like animated, that it was technically not copyrightable because they turned it into, you know what I mean? It's like it gets into that weird gray area of law
of fair use.
You understand what I'm saying? Like that, but that actually did happen.
But that goes down to yet again, I think people getting misconstrued. Well, not even that. See, I think this is even a more interesting problem than that, because this is a licensing agreement, effectively a contract. Yes. If I take the D&D logo and do something with it that I'm not supposed to do, that's not a OGL license contract issue. That's most likely going to be a trademark legal issue. Right. So that, I think, goes on to that. So the trademark already protects them from that. My point is putting in the OGL was unnecessary. And so seeing what we saw was egregious. They're using it as again, not a lawyer, but I think that if you're going to use a D&D logo, or you're going to use the word drist, whatever that, you know, in trying to ways to make money, that sounds like a trademark issue, which the trademark law should protect them.
Yeah. Victor Johnson, thanks. Hasbro additionally makes NFTs. So that was put in there probably to
protect their own NFTs. Okay.
Again, not giving them a reason, but the NFT one is the only thing I agree with in this whole statement. The NFT is literally the only thing I agree with.
Well, then they could have addendum the original 1.0 way and put in protections just for NFTs. Instead of egregiously like doing this draconian horribleness.
Yes, 100%.
And third, we wanted to ensure that the OGL is for the content creator, home brewer, aspiring designer, and our players and the community, not major corporations to use for their commercial and promotional purpose.
They are the major corporation.
Well, number one, they are the major corporation. And number two, if it wasn't for those other corporations making money, here's the thing. Just because someone makes a third-party book that keeps people's eyes on Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons & Dragons doesn't take away money from Dungeons & Dragons, because it only would if you make the same book.
Yes.
And then again, that goes into a copyright issue, right? You're copying our book. We're not copying. No one's copying your book. They're coming up with a book you haven't thought of yet.
Do you know what's funny? I was just thinking of this right now as we're talking. DM's Craft, the person, the content creator. Is it called DM's Craft?
Oh, you're talking about DM Lair?
No, not DM Lair. DM's Craft. The guy is the dungeon.
Professor Dungeon Master.
Professor Dungeon Master. Yeah, he has that Macbeth that he pushed. And then so they have stuff, right? Like someone made a Strahd, like a Strahd, but it was like Strahd was a female, and it was like kind of changed like a little bit. So I understand their argument about like the whole not taking what we have and then re-changing it, but additionally that's third-party stuff, and it wasn't big enough for them to have that argument. You know what I mean? Like even like Dingo Doodles, right? Like I love her stuff and her artwork. They just made Fool's Gold, the Kickstarter, but it was like their universe. It was like all their stuff from their universe. You know what I mean? Dingo Doodles isn't a major corporation competing with you. Like, where are you coming with this stuff? Like Wizards, like,
and it boils down to who are you targeting, right? And it really boils down to, yet again, there's a difference between what the license gives you and what your copyright protects. So they can't use Drista Worden. They can't use the D&D dice logo. They can't use Greyhawk. They can't use Forgotten Realms. They can't use all the proper names. They can't use Melf's Acid Arrow. They can't use Tensor's Floating Disc. Those are proper nouns. These are things that people inside Wizard of the Coast or TSR have created that they own the copyright for. But we can use Tensor's Floating Disc.
Fireball.
We can use Acid Arrow. These are generic versions of these spells that were created under the license, which allows people, content creators, to use. This is the whole point of the thing, is where it lets you get access to things that you can make that are compatible with the 5th edition system or whatever D&D version we're talking about.
Yeah.
But it then keeps and protects stuff behind the trademark law, things that Wizards needs to protect. And like I said, all their major nouns, all their lore, all that stuff can be held behind the copyright law, and that's protected. And then all the other stuff, like rules and stuff that can't be copyrighted, is licensed out freely to everyone else. This has been okay for 22 plus years. Why did this all of a sudden become a problem?
You want to know why?
Money.
Yeah. Like, it's the simple answer is money. They saw, right? Like, let's have the conversation. Let's have the real hard conversation right now. Twitch got hacked. They saw how much money Critical Role was making. 2019 to 2022, pandemic closures. Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, Foundry, all exploded. D&D Beyond subscriptions exploded. They just saw dollar signs. They saw dollar signs,
and they bought like, for how much millions or was it billions?
Beyond.
But they bought D&D because originally they didn't have D&D Beyond. It was a third-party publisher that did D&D Beyond under this new license. Would not have been able to make it.
Nope. But and then
would not have been cost effective.
Their biggest fear, and here's the competitor: Drive-Thru RPG.
Yeah.
One of the larger competitors, because Drive-Thru RPG is like us. A kind of variety show. They have everything. I go on there all the time. I just got Cyborg, Morkborg, Age of Sigmar stuff, the Free League. I get all my stuff from there. The Lord of the Rings, the One Ring book. I just got Index Card RPGs on there. Just tons of books are on there, right? Tons of third party. All the old stuff. I got Blackmore stuff. Was on there. Like, you get the complete editions and stuff. So that's that. They saw the competitors. So that's the major corporation that they're fighting against. Drive-Thru RPG, which helps them. Just FYI, that's the major corporation that they're fighting against. Someone who helps them with third-party stuff. But like I said, let's have the real talk conversation. They saw the numbers that were coming off. Twitch got hacked. They saw the numbers. Now, do I think they already knew the stuff from Critical Role? 100%, right? But here's the funny part. We know Critical Role, the last book they released, Tal'Dorei Reborn, was not published under Wizards of the Coast.
It was Darrington Press.
Darrington Press.
Plus the Amazon show. Talk about the Amazon show. There's another source of money that they feel that they lost out on.
They get $0 off of that. That's what they're looking at. They're looking at basically, not for nothing, and I'm gonna say something. Don't hate us. Critical Role kind of probably spurned a lot of this stuff. Not because of what they're doing, but because of how much money they've made. Again, good on them, right?
Yeah.
But
I wouldn't blame them.
I'm not blaming them, but what I'm saying is
they were probably a catalyst.
Yes, there was a catalyst. They saw Critical Role, they saw MCDM, they saw Dimension 20, and they said. And
they also see probably these like $1 million Kickstarters. That's also that pushed them to this conclusion.
And the big wigs up in the C-suites were like, I need my 13th yacht and my private island. I need another 17-acre pool. So how do I get that money? And that's what spurred this.
Yeah, and it goes down to like there were also leaked. I'm not even sure they were leaked, but they were like the high-level, C-level meetings about Hasbro and Wizard of the Coast, and they even said that D&D is unmonetized, like it's not monetized enough.
Yeah.
And then the head person who is in control of WotC right now, Wizard of the Coast, it was formerly a person from Microsoft. So they're all about the microtransactions and kind of thing. And this all boils down to the future plans of Wizards of the Coast, which I don't know. But a lot of us have figured out effectively that they're going to make their own VTT, which is going to be an all-in-one store. I think, they mentioned this already. It's going to be an all-in-one store. Talk about another company that's in kind of like direct, but not direct competitor to them is Hero Forge.
Yeah,
right. They're talking about making this whole like internal like VTT with 3D models of miniatures that you can buy, and I bet you can. Oh, you want that sword? That's 25 cents. Oh, you want that cool shield? That's $1.
Get the dwarf package for $15.99.
Yeah. And then I bet you they have something where you can go and buy it for like $40 and they'll 3D print it for you or something. They're probably thinking about stuff like that. Or you want a special 3D dice because they do that on D&D Beyond already.
D&D Beyond.
You want to buy that pack. You want to have a cool like border around your D&D Beyond. That's another pack. And they're already doing stuff like that. Yeah, and they just want more monetization.
100 million %. I can't agree more. And that's the hard conversation. I mean, like everyone's saying it, like it's just money. But now they come out with this. Sorry, we got like so far off the tangent, but I'm just furious. I'm like, I think everyone's furious. But like, again, they were looking at the thing and they're like, oh, NFTs. Sure, whatever, NFTs. I'll give them NFTs. I'll give you NFTs. That's the only thing I'll give you, though.
Yeah. But yet again, that could have been easily shored up with an addendum to the original OGL. And if you wanted to use NFTs, you'd have to use the new 1.1 license. And if you didn't care about NFTs, you kept operating under the old license. But what they try to do is they try to obliterate from orbital strike the old OGLs and put everyone under this draconian thing just to make more money and to destroy competition. And I think that's it's not as much the money. The 20 to 25% royalty is nothing. It's absolutely nothing. You're talking about $1 million Kickstarter, and we're just assuming right off the top, before taxes, before all the fees and everything.
Yeah,
$250,000 to a company that makes hundreds of millions, close to $1 billion a year. They don't care about the money. It's not about the money. It makes it look like it's about the money. It's about you're making a product on our dime, nuked from orbit.
Yep. Yeah, They apparently they never lost the old moniker of TSR. They sue regularly because that's what it looks like they want to do. They want to sue you into oblivion, tie you up in litigation, and just have you close down. Yeah, that's really what it is. Because like let's say NVNG starts to sell the D&D 1 products, right? That we shift our entire model from like a variety show to just selling D&D 1 products, right? Me and Steve stay home and we just write D&D 1 products. And we have that $1 million Kickstarter, cool, right? And Hasbro sends a cease and desist letter, and then we're like, well, we could fight them on this, and then they send their Death Star Stormtrooper legion of lawyers after us. They take us to court. Basically they're like, we'll win. We'll tie you up in so much litigation you'll never be able to do anything, and then we just go, fine, we'll close up shop. And they win. They close up shop.
This actually is a bigger problem because in the Paizo announcement, it talks about like, look, we're willing to go to court with this. The problem is that the problem with this is so if we decided to make a product and then Wizard came after us about that and we win in court, we still have a product to sell, right? Mm-hmm. If we're talking about all the old OGL stuff, what does Paizo actually win? Paizo actually wins that they probably have to maintain the old OGL alongside the new OGL. So meaning if you didn't want to sign 1.1 or 2.0, whatever the hell they're going to call it now, they're still going to have, assuming the Paizo wins that court case, they're going to still maintain 1.0 and 1.0A. Effectively, Paizo didn't win any money in this fictitious court we're talking about. Assuming that Paizo wins, they actually didn't win money from Wizards of the Coast. All Wizards of the Coast did is burn up Paizo's money. And Paizo doesn't have a lot of money. Compared to Wizards of the Coast, Paizo is probably the next biggest competitor, but they still don't have anywhere near that kind of money. No. And then Hasbro could just tie this up for 5 years. So for 5 years, you can't, Paizo maybe not be able to make products until this thing is sorted through. Mm-hmm. And they could just fight it, and then maybe Paizo wins, maybe they don't. Doesn't really matter at that point because they're tapped out of money and they go under.
Yeah. So this actually reminds me very much of one of my favorite games ever in the history of humankind, this game was my favoriteest game ever. And if you're young and you're watching this, you'll probably never heard of this game. And if you're an old man like me and Steve, you have. And you'll remember the bad old days, the good bad old days, when Marvel wasn't a multi-billion-dollar company. They were a few times they almost went under. Same thing with DC. This was before they were owned by Disney and such, and Warner well, DC was kind of always owned by Warner Brothers, but this was before Marvel was owned by Disney, and this was even before the Avengers movies. City of Heroes had a great MMO where you made superheroes, its own story, had nothing to do with Marvel. Zero to do with Marvel. It had its own lore. It was a computer game. It was an MMO. So again, nothing to do with Marvel's comics, because again, this was in the era where you could go to GameStop and buy a $15 time card and put time on your account so you can play City of Heroes. And then they came out with City of Villains, which was amazing even more because then you got to play the bad guys. But Marvel tied up the company in so much litigation that they had to sell to NCSoft. And then once NCSoft got it, NCSoft does what NCSoft does, and they were looking for more money. And then they finally closed up City of Heroes years later. But Marvel constantly sued City of Heroes for multiple different things. There was like an ability you had that you can like make, like your character had spikes, but they also had claws, and Marvel was like, that's Wolverine. And then City of Heroes was like, that's not Wolverine.
So
claws of Wolverine.
I do remember the end of that court case though, where the court decision, they asked the lawyers of Marvel, find someone who made a character exactly like one of your characters.
Yeah.
And they couldn't find one.
They couldn't.
Out of the thousands and thousands of people who made characters in the game, they could not find one example of someone saying, I'm making Wolverine, I'm calling him Wolverine, he's Wolverine, he's got all the Wolverine powers. I'm making Hulk, right?
Wolverine.
Yeah, you couldn't. So the fact that they couldn't, and that the court case eventually led to the fact that just because you can copy something, and that's from the player doing it, not the game,
not the company.
Just because the player has the potential to do it, doesn't mean the game is liable if it even happened, but they couldn't even prove that it actually happened.
Yeah. And also fifth column, one of the greatest enemies out there, Victor. But yeah, so again, that's what Hasbro wants to do. They want to tie up these companies in so much litigation that they could tap them from all their money and force them into just closing up shop, because there are no Milton Bradleys anymore. There are no mom and pop creators anymore, because they've all been bought out by Hasbro. Because Hasbro comes for them, and
do you want to get the rest of this?
The
rest of this message. Okay,
yeah,
there we go.
Go for it. So yeah, that's long story short.
We got through one paragraph.
Long story short, we've seen this happen with the whole monetary thing because Marvel did it, and
now other companies too. It's not just we're not just harping on Marvel. We're not just harping on DC. We're not just harping on. With every big company, eventually gets too big that they think that they're the new hotness, and
they own everything.
They become old and busted.
Yep.
Name that movie reference. So driving through these goals, we had two simple principles. Number one, our job is to be good stewards of the game. I'm sorry, that's an outright bullshit statement. Bullshit statement.
Shut the fuck up.
And two, the OGL exists for the benefit of the fans. Well, the fans are also the third-party publishers who actually support your system, so that's also another bullshit statement. That's a legalese statement that, like, oh no, we're still the good guys. You're not. You're no longer the good guys. You try to catch extra money. You tried to destroy other companies, and it turned around and blew up in your face. Nothing about these principles is waver for a second. Yeah, like I said, this whole paragraph is just to lie to you. I'm sorry. It's just
the most bullshit paragraph you'll ever read in your entire life.
Yeah. That's why early draft the new OGL included the provisions they did. So they're not denying that those leaked versions weren't one of the OGLs. So they're confirming at this point that those are early drafts, which I have problems with that statement. The draft language is provided to content creators and publishers so that their feedback could be considered before anything was finalized. In addition to the language allowing us to address discriminatory and hateful conduct, we mentioned this before, and clarifying what types of products the OGL covers, Our drafts include royalty language designed to apply to large corporations attempting to use OGL content. It was never intended to impact the vast majority of the community.
Can I say something?
Go for it.
Can I say something? That paragraph is the largest amount of horse shit I have ever heard in my entire fucking life. That is more blatantly a lie than when your parents tell you Santa's real and that your little karate outfit you can learn karate and become John Wick. That is the most bullshit lie I've ever heard. I would hands down put money that should go down in some kind of like legal case. Now let me break this down for you. They go, oh, this stuff that got leaked? No, that was just a beta. You don't make people sign a beta thing, because remember, the stuff that got leaked had a deadline for those people to sign.
So I have 2 points. One, you're right. There were companies that had contracts attached with this OGL language.
Yes.
Saying they had till Friday to sign it. They had a deadline of a week to sign it. You don't send drafts. That is, you don't send drafts to be signed. Number one, no. Flat out, you don't send drafts to be signed. Number two, the head person in Kickstarter who confirmed the 20%. You don't make deals with other companies to cut them a deal, a break on this commission price, whatever the price, the royalty price,
whatever,
on a draft document. This was stuff that was finalized.
Feedback.
Yeah. So they got caught with their pants down.
Yeah, the Wizards of the Coast. This does worse damage than you've ever done before. Like, they should just remain silent. Like, honestly, at this point, I think this draft has done more damage to their brand than them not saying anything.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about it, right? Like, because now we see it. Now it's one thing to say, like, have a conspiracy theory that aliens are real, and it's another thing for them to come down and try and probe you in the ass. That's what they're doing. They're trying to probe us in the ass with this kind of bullshit. They just better off not to say anything. They could have just taken the X-Files route and just been like, deny it, right? Like, just be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. But this is them trying to probe you in the ass. Little gray aliens trying to get your buttholes. You know, like, I don't understand why they would, like, who's out there writing this stuff? And then, so, like, now you have all this stuff, right? So I have no clue who's out there writing this stuff. Clearly, like, just people who don't understand people, right? Like, why didn't they just go to the community and say, like, what's that mean? I used it in my short this afternoon, where it was from South Park, where the guy's on the carpet and he's like, "We're sorry." They should have just sent that meme out. They should have just sent that meme as the blast and just been like, "We're sorry," and then said nothing else. It would have went over way better than what they just did. Because honestly, like, this is. It's so hard to look at this and believe anything besides the NFT thing, right? Like, literally, the only thing I would ever believe was the NFT, but that could have been done in an addendum to the OGL 1.8.
Yeah, like I said, it would have been a 1.1, and you could have signed the, if you needed and the NFT benefit, you would sign the 1.1. If you didn't, you would have kept on the 1.0A or the 1.0, and then nothing would have changed for anybody.
Yeah, they eat my just. You gotta be effing kidding me with this. Like, this is the most predatory shit I've ever seen. They're gaslighting us. I always tried to understand gaslighting. I was like, I understood it in the conceptual text, but I've never been I'm assuming I've been gaslighted, right? Like, Santa Claus is real, the Tooth Fairy comes, mom and dad love you, stuff like that. I've been gaslighted before, right? But, like, this is the first time I've ever, like, been, like, had like a written gaslight. Like, so they were just like, "Yo, we're gonna write this and gaslight that, and just fucking gaslight the whole community and see what happens."
Wait, we're not done yet, because we're gonna get more gaslighting in a second. All right, so this is more of like a fluff statement, because a lot of times Wizards of the Coast does add in this kind of cheeky language, which is fine if they weren't basically saying we're trying to destroy everything D&D stands for. But it's like, however, it is clear from the reaction that we rolled a 1. It has been clear that it is no longer possible to fully achieve all 3 goals while staying true to our principles. The problem, and so here's what we're doing. By the way, if they're staying true to the principles of the game, then you wouldn't have done this. 100%, you wouldn't have done this. Yeah. A drunk, crusty, technical error message was the answer.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, that little statement, like, oh, we can't do all 3 things we wanted to do. BS. You could have. You chose violence. Effectively, they chose violence on the community.
They chose violence.
And they didn't realize that the community chose violence back.
Fuck yeah, we did.
I mean... All right, so this is now talking about the next OGL. Now, I will warn you, there's nothing like violent about the next thing. But what they're trying to do is they're trying to lull people into like, no, we're really trying. We're really trying to do better next time. So just sign the next agreement and don't read it.
Yeah.
So just be warned, yet again, just like every other time that there's ever been a controversy with a company, whether it's big video game companies or other companies, whatever, they're always going to try to pad the statement out to say, oh, we made an oopsie, but we'll try better next time. Don't buy it. Always keep on your guard. So the next OGL will contain the provisions that will allow us to protect and cultivate the inclusive environment we are trying to build with this, and specify that it covers only content for TTRPGs. I actually am concerned with that statement because that might involve like videos. It might not involve like videos talking about it, and so the fact that it only covers our TTRPGs, this is a concerning statement for me because there's a lot more than just the game. But let's continue. This means that our other expressions such as educational and charitable campaigns, live streams, cosplays, VTT uses, etc. will remain unaffected by any OGL update. Well, we thought the original OGL was okay, also sufficient, and that you see where that went. The content has already been released by 1.0a will also remain unaffected. I would like to see that in writing under the new OGL. Just because they say it here doesn't mean it's going to carry over to the actual whatever 2.0, whatever the hell they're going to come out with. Well, it will not contain as any royalty structure. It will also not include the license back provision. The license back provision is that thing where we say that basically if you signed 1.1, you sign your rights to Wizards of the Coast with your property attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
It will not provide the license back that some people were afraid that means for us to steal their work. No, it means that they can steal their work. You're giving them permission to do it. That's what that's literally what they're meaning, what they wrote in there. That never crossed our minds. Sure, sure. Under any new OGL, you will own your content you create. Right here, I heard other people talking about this. This is a sneaky statement. This is a 100% sneaky statement because in the original 1.1, you technically owned your content. You never gave ownership of your content to Wizards. You just gave them basically an unfettered right to do whatever the hell they wanted with it. So if they wanted to say, well, you can't sell on our platform or whatever, what was the D&D Beyond platform, the VTT, right? If they said you can't sell it on there, and that's where the only place you can buy D&D content, and they say you can make it, you can't sell it anywhere. You can't sell it anywhere else, and we're not letting you sell it here. And then what does Wizards do? They put your content on there, and they don't give you a cut.
Yep.
So effectively, you still own it, but you gave them a right to sell it, and they don't have to give you money now. So this statement was technically true before, but you did sign your right to basically let them do whatever the hell they want. So this is what I'm saying was this kind of language is deceptive, but true. So just be careful if you are a content creator and you do sign a new OGL, if you want to still work with Wizards and Dungeons and Dragons in the future, just be careful. And it goes, okay, so you will own the content you create. We won't. Any language we put down will be crystal clear and unequivocal to that point. The license back language was intended to protect us and our partners from creators who incorrectly allege that we steal their work simply by the coincidental similarities. I'd like an explanation of how. How? So me giving you a right to take my stuff is giving you a right to say you didn't take my stuff.
What? 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 Like, okay, real talk. My group, we have a running gag that like Paizo secretly steals our stuff. It was a running gag. It's not true.
It's a goof.
Like, Paizo does their own stuff. It's just a goof. It's a running gag, right? I would never ever in my entire life ever go meet like people from Paizo and be like, you took my stuff.
It's just like a lot of stuff we talk about just happens to come into fruition, which is kind of funny. Which means we're all on the same page. Yes, but it is kind of funny where
like if everyone's thinking about, like, if you're in the same sphere, you've all seen the same thing, right? Like if everyone is thinking similarly, because you're in the same sphere, you're acting in the same environment. Oh, this change should happen, and then it happens. It doesn't mean they're secretly wiretapping my phone. It's not that. It's a joke. We know it's a joke. If someone is going and suing Wizards of the Coast because they're stealing their stuff, that means they're stealing their stuff. Like, I have zero case to bring up legally, right, against anyone for stealing my stuff. But if like all of a sudden I'm like, hey, I create this third like a tuna fish, right? Created the Inquisitor, and then all of a sudden
a tuna wizard.
A tuna wizard, yeah. A tuna wizard creates created the Inquisitor, and then all of a sudden Pathfinder 2 comes out with the Inquisitor, and it looks suspiciously the same. They have a good leg to stand on. Now, if that's happening in Wizards of the Coast, and it's so problematic and so fluent that they had to address it in this manner, then that looks like there's more of a problem in your internal structure of your company not doing their due diligence.
And it boils down to, remember, let me see if I can find it. Let me pull this screen over here for a second so I can find it. I'm reading this from the leaked OGL. You will own the new and original content you create. Yet again, stating that statement is deceptive, but you agree to give us a non-exclusive, perpetual, irrevocable, worldwide, sub-licensable, royalty-free license to use the content as for any purpose. Any purpose would mean selling as well, right? So tell me, I would like Wizards to explain how, like right here, let's see. The license-backed language was intended to protect us, meaning Wizards of the Coast, and our partners from creators who incorrectly allege that we steal their work simply because it looks similar. So you want us to give you a license to do whatever you want with our stuff and then say that license is to protect you from us.
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah.
So yeah, that is one of the major problems with this whole thing is you can say that you were going to use it in that way, but you also implied that the original 1.0 and 1.0A were not revocable until they were revocable or deauthorizable. Yeah. So yeah, the more they talk, the less I trust them.
I mean, yeah, but sure.
As we continue to invest in the game that we love and move forward with partnerships in film, TV, and digital, yet again, TV right there, that implies Critical Role's thing that they want to cut in.
Not just that, but they did announce that they're doing a live action television show.
Okay.
So yes, there is more television, but it has nothing to do. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. And digital games, yet again, that could be video games or the digital VTT that they're working on. That risk is simply too great to ignore.
Too great.
You can do all that stuff and none of it's going to re-risk to you. Like, I don't see how, even if doing a fan project of like like even if Critical Role didn't blow up as much as they did, and they did like a fan movie of like they did their intro there for season 1 where they're all like live action and in makeup and everything like that. That was cool.
That was dope.
But that promoted their thing, but it also promoted Dungeons and Dragons. And by the way, for second season, D&D Beyond sponsored them for a long time. Yeah. I don't know if they went through all the way to the end, but
Beyond was still a third-party publisher.
True, but did it not point people straight to D&D Beyond, which pointed people straight to 5th edition?
Yes, I understand your logic, but I'm just laughing at the fact that D&D Beyond at that time was still a person. If they hadn't been bought out, under the OGL 1.1 or this new OGL 2.0, they would have been the people getting targeted by this, like, you have to give it to us.
Yeah.
Or for your safety, you have to let us.
Yeah, for your safety, you have to give us everything you have.
Yeah, for your safety, though.
The new OGL will contain provisions to address that risk. We will do with it without a license back and without suggesting that yet we have the rights to the content you create. Your ideas and your imaginations are what make the game special, and that belongs to you. I would love to see the language that they use, because the language they're saying they did that, but it had major consequences. Couple of last thoughts. First, we won't be able to release a new OGL today. Obviously, that was clear before I even started reading this, because you need time to make sure it's right, but it's coming. Second, you're going to hear people say that they won and we lost because making your voices heard forced us to change their plans. Well, by definition, that's exactly what happened. That's the first truthful statement that was made.
Truthful statement.
Yeah, but then they go and say, oh, those people are only half right. They won, and so did we. I think that you would love if people just signed the 1.1 OGL and people kept their mouth shut.
Yep. That's their victory dance, is if we had been all little lemmings and just signed that OGL 1.1, the 1.1, and we would be in a world of hurt right now. I'm so happy. Like, I just really have to say, I'm so happy the community saw what was happening and came together as a unity. Nothing's unified like the community ever. I've never seen the tabletop community ever unified behind anything, and this was the unifying force. Like, I've never seen it, right? Because, like, humans are naturally diverse, right? That's the pleasure of being a human. We are naturally diverse, and we all have different ways of thinking and different ways of seeing things. And that's what's beautiful about us as a species, right? This guy was all in the line. We were like, everyone, battle stations.
I have seen people who both love 5th edition equally grab their pitchforks and argue about a minute rule that didn't mean anything.
Yep.
And they were like, bring the fire and brimstone. And then everyone was like, wait a minute, Wizards is doing what? Huh? Yeah. And then everyone just came together and just drove a spike straight through Wizards.
Love it. I love it. It's beautiful. I don't think I've ever the new OGL and the story of the no lube. Yeah, that's literally what it is. Yeah. It's honestly a beautiful thing to see the community come together and recognize that, like, yeah, we could be different and there are differences and we have different of opinions on like how certain rules work, but all of a sudden, when we saw, like, hey, the people in this community are going to be hurt, and because, like, if you think about it, right, it wasn't like the content creators were the ones who were mad and the community didn't care because they were like, we'll get our new system faster. But it was the community that spurred on the content creators, which is usually the opposite way. Usually, it's the content creators that spur on the community. This was the community saw this and was just like, not on my watch. Like, not today, Satan.
Not today, Satan. Yeah.
They went for it, and then, like, it spurred massive, like I said, like nerd immersion, Mr. X,
DM Lair,
DM Lair, Ginny D, to go. You know what? I thought I was back to a corner, but if my community will support me, then I feel emboldened to defend myself against this.
And to the point, there's still everything is up in the air, and that's the concerning thing here, is that everything is still up in the air. So there are some content creators who just still want it, like their whole community is based on people who play D&D, and like I said before, there's some people who just go like, look, I just want to play D&D. I don't care. This doesn't affect me. And then some people go, and some people want to change. And like I said, if you want to play D&D 5th edition or whatever, the next one D&D, whatever it is, keep playing it. Go for it. If you want to switch systems, switch systems. If you want to support an independent creator, go support an independent creator. But the people who have their entire like infrastructure based on making 5th edition content, because there's no OGL now, we don't know what the new one's going to be. And if I know they can't, like, how do you progress forward with a big project when you don't know if you can even do the big project? So this still, even though we kind of got companies to band together. We have Paizo and a bunch of companies banding together to make their own OGL. They're still a smaller portion of the market share than D&D is. Then you have people who are making stuff for D&D, and at the moment they can keep making stuff at the old OGL, but the new one may try to do this again. We don't know. So those content creators, it sucks that I would not want to be in the position of some of these content creators because of the position that they put themselves in, because they don't know in 6 months, whenever this new OGL comes out, they don't know what the position they're going to be in. Yeah.
And that's the worst part. And again, coming from a place of where we can be like, all right, so F this new OGL, and then keep it moving. That's us. And we're not making money. We're making some things, but like, and by money I mean like we make enough to buy like hamburgers every time we play. That's about it. And like McDonald's, like sometimes you splurge. We go to
Chinese food.
Yeah, Chinese food. Yeah, that but that's about it. But like, like honest to goodness, like
I don't envy some of these people's content. This is business decisions.
Because like I'm just thinking about like the D&D shorts guy, right? And his whole premise, right, was talking about Dungeons and Dragons, and they were hyped for D&D 1 because that meant it was more stuff for them to create and bring to the community. And now he was like, "Yo, I'm canceling my D&D sub." And he has to pivot into the new thing that will generate enough content. And like he has the fans to do that. But like you might get fans, like maybe he moves into Star Wars Edge of the Empire, like that's the one that catches his eye. Okay, I don't play Star Wars, so I'm not gonna look at that. Yeah, I'm not, and then let's say a quarter of their community dips. That's a large hit. A quarter is a lot.
Or you have to try to like you're doing one thing for so long, and then you try to like be a variety, and then people don't like the variety and they dip. If they don't like the shift. And like I said, this is the major problem here, because not even the fact that 1.1 kind of went away is a net positive, but everything's up in the air. Anyone who makes any kind of content for 5th edition, you might even have a project that's coming out in the next 5 or 6 months. You might have prepping for a Kickstarter that's going to come out in 3 months. What the hell do you do?
You don't know.
You don't know.
You pause everything.
Yeah, well, either you pause everything, you try to get it out while you technically
you can.
You can with the 1.0 away.
Yeah, and then you hope they don't change right. You hope they don't alter the agreement any further at that point.
Yeah, Victor Johnson here is like, I remember in high school in the 90s and D&D almost died. Hell, my table was only Palladium and White Wolf. Yeah, I remember those times where I almost got into Palladium. My buddy tried to get me into Palladium, and we played White Wolf for a little bit. And I remember the time where
White Wolf.
Yeah, and I remember the time where D&D was kind of like a second thought, because all these other systems kind of came out of the woodwork.
Yo, White Wolf was the #1 in like the 2000s. They were monstrous. They were everywhere because they were aggressively different than anything else, right? You had fantasy and you had like sci-fi, and they were the first horror. Like, let's be real. They were vampires, they were werewolves, they were Frankenstein monsters, they were mummies, they were ghosts, they were goblins. Not goblins, but like they were wraiths, right? Yeah. And then Reckoning was the hunters. Changeling. You were Sam and Dean Winchester. But like they ran the 2000s. I want to say from like 2000 to 2010, maybe 2013.
And funny enough, so I want to jump in here for a second. Funny enough, when the OGL first came out, I heard the interview of the person who wrote the original OGL talk about this. He had to get people on board. Well, not maybe him, but they were trying to get people on board to write in the OGL. And what was everyone concerned about? He said, what was the one thing people were concerned about? We're concerned about we start writing stuff for 3rd edition and under the OGL 1.0, and Wizards takes it away like that. And they had to assure everybody that that can't happen based on the language that was in the license. And White Wolf was one of the 3 big companies that jumped on board and started making third-party stuff, which saved Wizards' butt.
Yep. It's funny how like your allies one week are now your enemies the next. Because honestly, like I don't have it like I don't know. And that's a heavy side because like my channel, like our channel, like I was telling Steve earlier today, I was like, yo, our channel gained 10, 15 new subs which is big for us, right? Like
yeah,
normally
thanks
we
for
gain,
subbing.
like,
If you're
thank you for subbing.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Normally we gain like five.
Well, we get like one or two like every other week.
Yeah, 1 or 2 like every other week, and then sometimes we have a big push of like 5 or 6, right? We got 10 to 15, which was huge for us. Thank you very much for subbing. We love you. But like I was like, oh, this is dope. I'm not happy about any of this. I honestly would have kept doing what I was doing long before, and like now I have to talk about this stuff. It makes me super sad. Yeah, I'm hyped. Paizo came together with the all the third party people. I'm hyped to see the Matt Colville tabletop game. I'm hyped to see the Cobalt Press tabletop game. I'm hyped. I'm super hyped. That makes me I got hard from reading all that stuff. I was like, yeah, I'm amped. Yeah. But like, I'm not happy about what I know coming to the third party publishers, because I can't see Wizards of the Coast backtracking to 1.A. I can't see them backtracking. I can see them backtracking and being I can't see the brand damage has been done.
Yeah, and that's the other problem.
Like they've and that's the biggest thing I think that can come out of this is do I want to see the like now I'm like hesitant about a lot of things, right? Like, am I gonna go see the Dungeons and Dragons movie? I was kind of excited to see it, but now I'm like, do I want to see it? Do I want to support them? Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like I'm patiently waiting for the 20th for the next season of Vox Machina, right? Because that's not Dungeons and Dragons, it's Vox Machina. I will support the shit out of Critical Role, but like, if they're like, oh, we now support, now sponsored by Dungeons and Dragons, I'll question it. You know what I mean?
And here's the big question. These are the 2 big questions. The movies are right around the corner, right? Isn't it coming out in March?
March, yeah.
March,
down the block.
yeah. It's coming out in March. How much damage in the box office are they going to see from this? Also, how much damage is 1D&D going to get from this?
Oh,
because 1D&D is the center of all this, because it's like people are going to make content for 1D&D. And yet again, if 1D&D is truly backwards compatible, why would people just publish stuff for 5e and it would work?
But here's the bigger problem. 1D&D has to be so fucking amazing that it gets everyone back. And people were ready on the fence, because Jeff even said it. And I spoke to a lot of my friends at work who play D&D, and they were like, yo, we're not even excited from the stuff that was released so far. It didn't get them excited. I wasn't. Yeah. I saw some of this stuff, but like when it was 50-50. It was on the fence. But most of the stuff was just homebrew rules that people already made. So it looked like a 5.5, whereas like character creation, everyone gets feats now, which was a big homebrew rule that everyone used, but many GMs didn't, and many GMs didn't like. And now that's where they're leaning to. Everyone gets feats, right? Okay, cool. What else did we see?
But here's the question: like, it goes back to like, is this truly backwards compatible? And I honestly think that they were going to backpedal on the backwards compatible idea.
I told you that. I called that shit. I said I don't think it's backwards compatible.
Because when they first said it was backwards compatible, I'm like, okay, that's possible, but I don't know what else they could add to make it backwards compatible, because that's a hard pill to swallow. Like when 3rd edition and 3.5 came out. 3.5 all they did is clarify rules. They literally clarified some rules and cleaned up some stuff and maybe cleared up some spells and how certain abilities worked. But effectively, there wasn't that many. Like unless you knew where they were, you really wouldn't feel the differences if you played certain classes. There were some differences, but at the end of the day, they were very similar by design, because it was really an update. It was a patch.
It was a hard patch, yeah.
When you're talking about 5th edition and versus this, I'm going to call it 6th edition, but whatever they're going to call 1D&D, or they're going to change the name, whatever. If you're saying 5th edition says there's feats are variant and 6th edition says it's a hard and fast rule, how are they compatible again? Because one says it's variant, so I don't use it, and my character doesn't have feats, and you're going to walk into a game with feats, and you get stat increases? Wait a minute, hold on. That seems unbalanced. It seems that a 6th edition character or a 1D&D character should, in theory, be more powerful than a basic character, a 5th edition character.
It would be. A 5th edition character, the way I see it, would be not as powerful as a D&D 1 character already, just looking at the stuff. Also, they're not backwards compatible because they've already created new, from the classes we've seen, they've already created new stuff for them. Right, like they clarified some of the rules, but they also tweaked a lot of the rules, and they gave like the ranger now has the hunt prey action as like an actual class ability. The cleric had like a whole change thing. Also, all their top tier abilities dropped down a thing into 18th level.
Yeah,
which is backwards compatible. And if I'm playing,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was about to say that I know that they already changed this rule, but when they first released the rules, we're talking about critical hits don't work in the way they normally went. How is that backwards compatible? Like, okay, if I'm a 5th edition character, I get to crit on stuff and you don't? Like on monsters? Like, oh, okay, if I'm the GM and I'm using the 5th edition rules, I can crit with monsters, but then you run 6th edition, I can't crit with monsters. But they eventually did change that rule. But how is that backwards compatible?
It's not.
It's not. So there's enough changes here that makes it not backwards compatible, or it doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
you got to make it make sense.
It was ever going to be backwards compatible.
I can't even imagine the comment section in the fucking playtest. Oh boy, that's got to be a minefield of like OGL comments of crap.
Yeah, and then like here's the thing. I saw the writing on the wall with that whole backwards compatibility because I classified it the same way because my first and true love was always video games. Every time a new system was released, they always said the same bullshit. Oh, it's going to be backwards compatible. And like 95% of the games were not backwards compatible. And then within the year, they dropped all the old stuff for the new stuff, right? And then, but that was video games. The tabletop role-playing games, we know new additions happen. The big thing I saw when Pathfinder 2 was getting released was people were terribly concerned about Pathfinder 1. And then but the nice thing is, Paizo has been releasing for both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah,
they've been working on both ends of the spectrum, releasing for both Pathfinder and Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Now their Pathfinder stuff has slowed down.
Of course,
truth be told.
I mean, that's the same thing when console version, like like PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, they're still making PlayStation 4 games, but they're winding that down, and eventually being PS5 is going to be their prominent system. But it's the same thing.
We know what it is. Yeah. Like me and you, we know what it is. You know what it is. That's fine. And I'm not complaining about that. They were never going to keep it backwards compatible. In my head, WotC was like, as it got closer to the date, they were going to be like, well, it's kind of backwards compatible in the sense of like, it's still called clerics.
This is the little, and you're going to get like a 15-page pack of all the stuff you have to do to make your character backwards compatible.
Well, that would be the other thing. Yeah, that would be the other thing. You get the booklet because because they're all over the internet, the conversion guides on how to convert like Pathfinder 2nd Edition for 1st edition stuff to 2nd edition stuff.
Or you're doing D&D to 1st edition Pathfinder, D&D 3rd edition to Pathfinder.
Pathfinder, yeah. And then it was 5th edition stuff, and then the compatibility stuff where it was like, okay, this is how this works, yada XYZ. Honestly, like this is it was never going to be backwards compatible. I think the OGL 1.1 was basically created to nuke the backwards compatibility concept.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm not in those offices, but that's the way it seems to me. Like we already know, like we could see the writing on the wall with a lot of this stuff. But so keep it moving. Critical Role did release a statement today. Just earlier today. I do not have a link because it's on Twitter. I can find it.
Hold on. Let me
it was on. They released it on Twitter. I have a short up on our YouTube page talking about how I feel Critical Role. Now is the time for Critical Role to release their own tabletop role-playing game.
Look, I mean, more power to them. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying they shouldn't. My point is that making an RPG system takes time.
No, it doesn't.
To make it good, it does.
Right now. I didn't say it was going to be good. I said
it's got to be good.
I think Critical Role has. I said it in my short. I'll say it here. I'll say it out loud for everyone. Critical Role. They have the ingenuity. They have the time, and they have the financial backing to do it.
Tools. They got the talent.
Talent. Yeah, exactly. Is the talent.
Is this the Twitter post that with the black background?
Is it like a gold writing, or is it like
with the signature being gold?
I think so. Let me double check.
When was it released? Because I have date time. 5 p.m. January 13th. January 13th at 5 p.m.
I guess so.
All right, let me just see if I can do this.
Honestly, we could just write Critical Role and you'll probably find it.
That's what I kind of did. So I'm gonna try to
tweets and replies.
Trim out all this other stuff. We don't need all this other
Critical
stuff.
Role has always supported. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
with the gold.
Yep. All right, I'm just trying to trim all this other stuff, but we don't need to see any of this other junk. And we're gonna make this big so everyone can read it. And there we go. Okay. And then we're going to go to the screen. There we go. All right. So those of you just listening, Critical Role, this is from all of us at Critical Role, and then this is Image. The Critical Role has always supported creators and game development in the tabletop space. We stand by our industry peers, as well as anyone who who takes a risk creating a new system or developing an original idea. The beauty of the game comes from the opportunity to share inclusive, diverse, and compelling stories from a wide spectrum of creators. This is exactly why we launched our own game publishing company a few years ago, because we believe that broadening the field of creators boosts the entire industry. The success that we have experienced is thanks to the passion and interest of the greater tabletop community, and we commit to fostering an environment that allows everyone the opportunity to easily share their stories they wish to tell, signed by Critical Role. Okay, if you look at the stream, right, that's the right one, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Victor Johnson, I was excited for the Tremor Sense Dwarves. I was actually excited for those guys in the 1D&D. I thought they did do a lot of cool work with the, branching off Critical Role real quick, giving time for Steve to take a sip of his whiskey. I do believe the 1D&D had a lot of interesting changes to their ant species, right? That's what they call them now.
Yeah.
I personally think Paizo had the right answer with ancestries. It's where you're from. Personally, I heard a concept on the 1D&D where you could have your species, and instead of having you should have two separate lines. You could have a profession and a culture, which I think would have been cool. So you could have like a tundra culture. So your character is proficient in survival and like traveling in snow, right? Like give them like snow sense or snow blindness ability.
That's kind of similar to the way Pathfinder 2nd Edition does it, where you have your ancestry, which is I'm an elf, I'm a dwarf, I'm a half orc, I'm a half elf, or whatever halfling gnome, and then I have my ancestry, which is what kind of thing I am. I'm a tundra elf. I'm a the rock gnome or whatever. And then I have my ancestry feat, which kind of focuses on different abilities that I kind of grow into over time.
But like I thought that was cool. Like they could have did something like that where
Victor says it's a good statement considering legal entanglements they may still have with the necromancer. They may still have arrangements with
wizards.
With they almost guaranteed to already have arrangements with D&D Beyond and Wizards and overarching Hasbro company with other parts. Obviously the thing with Amazon, that's with Amazon, but they still. And for those I haven't been watching. I watched a little bit in the season. I probably watched the most of season 2, but I haven't just been so busy. I don't have time to watch a 4-hour stream. Hell, I have time. We don't have time. I don't have time for our 4-hour streams, and I still do that. But from what I hear, that they're trying to more and more distance themselves from stuff that is D&D.
Yeah.
From a standpoint of like proper names of things.
Yes, they are killing off the gods, and the current stuff is they are removing the gods from, like, they're having an issue with the gods. And
I feel you, Victor, by the way.
Yeah,
I'm drinking 60 hours of warehouse work. At least I'm union.
Nice. Thank God I'm not union, so. And I work in the warehouse too, so I'm spent right now. The lower half of me is literally boxers, by the way. If anyone wanted that image, I'm just sitting with a shirt on. But yeah, like, so they are currently in Critical Role. They're currently working with this like whole god concept, And if you look at like the gods of Alexandria, they are the they they don't call them like Cord or Bahamut.
They give them other names.
Their titles, like their title names. They call them like the Silver Dragon,
the Raven
or
Queen.
Like the Raven Queen.
Yeah.
So they are. I do feel they are hard distancing themselves from.
Which they have been for a while. So they may, well, for maybe not as long as we would have hoped that they would be, but they have been distancing themselves at least somewhat before these things started happening. So yet again, they may have saw also, like similar to MCDM, they may have saw the writing on the walls, or maybe they had inside information, maybe they didn't, who knows. But they started doing this. They didn't just start doing this end of December or early January. It's been going on for a while, from what I understand. Yeah. So, like I said, they may just wanted to distance it because they did something similar when they started separating themselves from Geek and Sundry. They just wanted their own stuff, which makes sense. Yeah. At some point, you don't want to have to like be beholden to somebody else because you want to make a cool idea. You want to have your own stuff. So maybe they started realizing like, oh man, if this does become a problem, we're kind of boned. So maybe we just start shedding stuff that we don't need. Is it really that important that we name the gods the proper names? No, we could kind of make our own stuff and separate ourselves from all that proper stuff, so we don't run into problems later. And it just happened to coincide with this chaos.
Yeah, I mean, do they have to have seen? This is my thing. This is my belief. Critical Role, 100%. Because again, remember those contracts went out. The OGL 1.1 went out with contracts for people to sign. Kickstarter had to negotiate a deal. That's not done in a month. That's not done in 2 months. That's done. My assumption, this is my belief. D&D, when D&D 1 started their beta test, the 1.1 OGL stuff and NDAs went out. That probably within that week or two.
Maybe not going out, but they may have finalized it.
Finalized.
Or right around that time.
Time started circulating out.
It's a pure speculation.
All speculation, but that's my belief, the way I see it probably working itself out. And then I'm assuming Critical Role got their stuff and they were talking back and forth with WotC, and they were like, well, how do we do this? You know, and they're not slacks, right? They have a major company. They've been part of the industry for a very long period of time. If you haven't seen it, go watch Mythica. It's on Amazon Prime, and Matt Mercer is the Necromancer. That's the name of his character, and it's an amazing like love letter to like fantasy D&D movies. It's amazing. Just go watch it. They're actually releasing a new season, like a new movie.
They're releasing a new
season. Is number 7. I'm so excited. I woke up to this news and was happy that whole day. So go watch it. Matt Mercer's there. So they've been in the industry. They understand how this works. Don't forget, they started, and I know everyone says this, they started playing Pathfinder and then transitioned to 5th edition. Why? Right? Like, that's the question, is why? They probably spoke to companies and said, hey, we would like to do this weird thing. Can you lend us some financial backing? And the company that said yes was the one they went to, you know? That's my assumption. That's how I would view it. So I think they probably had some kind of knowledge in the backworks. The way this reads is the moment our contract with WotC is up, we're getting the fuck out of Dodge. That's kind of how this reads to me.
Yeah. And then there is a comment here, the top comment, which is speculation of the future. So they obey Sid. Critical Role or CR is designing their own game system. Come back to this tweet in a few months. That's definitely a potential prediction, which is not too much of not too hard of a prediction, because it's most likely going to happen. It's most likely they're going to come out with their own game system. Obviously, I would love for them to go to Pathfinder 2nd Edition, and I think Pathfinder 2nd Edition would really mate up well with kind of their style, because 1st Edition was kind of rules heavy, and that's not to say
it was super rules heavy.
I'm not to say that 2nd Edition isn't rules heavy, but it's not anywhere near as crunchy. and the 3 action system really kind of leads into the
way they play,
and the kind of like the cinematic nature of how Critical Role functions. But at the end of the day, they could use any system. They literally could use Index Card RPG, and they would nothing really much would change with their game. So, you know, they, like I said, they can write their own system. They probably are going to write their own system, but who knows if they like interim switch to a system just to get things going, or they just wait until their game kind of starts flowing with their own system. Who knows?
What we don't know, and I'm calling it now. So ready? I already called that they're coming out with their own system. When they do drop their own system, I want everyone to come see me and just say, Jared, you were right. That's all I want to hear. Jared, you were right. Thank you. Because I called this years in advance. Secondly, what we don't know is Matt Colville teams up with Critical Role, and they play the Matt Colville system. Done. Calling it now.
Interesting.
Calling it now.
Interesting.
Because, right, like they all kind of are in that sphere. He's a video game. He worked on video games, and in the gaming industry, they're all voice actors. They probably bumped into each other a few times.
No, he's been on stuff from Critical Role. I'm not sure if he's been on. Hold on, let me switch up here because we're done with that tweet at this point. So he hasn't. I don't know if he's actually been on Critical Role, but he's definitely been on the Satine Phoenix show, where she had like the GM talk, whatever. I'm not sure if it was GM Talks or whatever the name of the show was, but he's been on there, and he's talked about, like, he knows Matt, and they you know, I don't know if they're friends. I don't know their personal relationship, but they do have interactions, and they have talked before, so they do kind of travel in similar spheres.
Yeah.
So it's most likely that they've talked. I bet you once this landed, or once they both received they called each other. They were on the phone. They had a big ass Zoom call or whatever. Yeah,
which is natural and 100% reasonable. And again, I don't expect. So I'm kind of like, so I was very surprised by some people. I'm not gonna name names, but people got like real rowdy that Critical Role didn't like flat out and was like, Wizards of the Coast are fucking devils. I was like, they can't do that. They literally can't do that.
That I understand. I was surprised that it took them this long to make a statement of any kind. I thought their statement would come out much quicker than this, considering the fact of how big they are. But it kind of makes sense, the fact that they're big. I think they're waiting for Wizards to make a response and see what they'd say.
I mean,
but the agreement was so egregious. I think I just was surprised it took them this long to make a statement, because a lot of people were already making statements, whether good or bad, whether ill or not. People were talking about this, and the fact that they weren't was like, it was a little like, wait, why aren't they saying anything? And then they had silence for a while. But
I understand that. I will also say they probably were speaking to lawyers.
Oh, definitely.
And they were like, listen, like, what can we say? When can we say it? And maybe they were being told, like, yo, just stay the course and see what happens. And then WotC came out with more stuff, and then they were like, all right, we have to say something.
Yeah, once they came out with their final statement, basically saying that they were postponing the OGL release. I think it's when the statement came out today, and they launched that today, right? So they launched it earlier today.
Everything was today.
Everything was today. Everything's happening too fast.
Yeah, we're in the mix.
So hopefully this is the last time we have to talk about this, unless something else major happens, like the world implodes because the Hasbro decided to sell it to an alien culture.
You know, honestly, like you know what's funny is, like, months ago, people were talking about WotC selling like D&D.
Hasbro selling WotC.
Mm-hmm. Hasbro selling WotC. Do you think? Here's the bigger conspiracy.
For hat time.
Foil hat. Put your foil hat, your thinking caps on. Do you think Critical Role could buy WotC?
No. They're worth too much. You have to remember that Critical Role, and we don't know how much Darrington Press is making, but we know that Critical Role in 2 years made $10 million from Twitch. No. Yeah, it was $10 million in 2 years.
No, it was $10 million like an episode.
No, that was their total revenue. I was almost positive that was their total revenue.
I thought that was like they were the number one makers.
They were, but that was the total revenue of those 2 years.
What's it?
Hold on, let me see if I can find it. I mean, let me see. But I honestly would believe that they that was the total amount of money that was.
The Mats are friends, Victor Johnson. The Mats are friends. Oh, cool. That makes sense.
What? Oh yeah. They've met. Yeah, they've definitely met. Let me see. Okay, so I see this year. As mentioned. I'm reading.
Read faster.
Let's see. Okay. How much the biggest streamer stars on the platform received in payouts between August 2019 and October 2021. That was the number total. So Critical Role made in that time span from August 2019 to October 2021, $9.6 million.
Got it. Sorry, okay. I thought it was like $9 million a year.
No. It was that.
Apologies.
in that approximate 2-year time span. So I don't think they have enough money. Even Paizo doesn't have that kind of money.
No.
So from what I really want to talk about it because I don't know. I'm not as familiar with it, but I heard people talking about this, that the money Hasbro was making was basically money that Hasbro was reporting that they were making was mostly coming from Wizards, but no one really knew about it.
Wait, the money Hasbro was making
was coming from Wizards, but nobody really asked about Wizards. Because obviously, like, anytime that these big kind of like meetings happened and they do talk about revenue, what does Hasbro have? They have G.I. Joe, they have Transformers, they have a lot of these big IPs, right?
Yeah.
And they would ask, like, oh, what's the new Transformer movie going to look like? What's the new Transformers figure? What's the new G.I. Joe? What's the new... And they had a lot of these properties. And a lot of these properties, they would ask questions about. Like, how much money did this make? And how much money did the Bay movies make? And how much money did this make? And nobody really knew about Wizards of the Coast until someone asked. And then they realized that Wizards was never on these revenue talks. They were like, they saw the breakdown of all the different revenue things. And Wizards was never on there. But they were making all this money. And that was a large proportion of their money making, from what it seems to be. So then, when they say we need to make more money, that makes sense because they need to make the money maker to make more money. You don't want to pick a losing property to try to make more money because it's losing money. So you don't want to raise prices because it's not going to work well with you. Yeah. But if you're already making money, you want to just increase your market share.
Yeah, how can we make more money off?
How can I make more money? Yeah. They tried this.
Instead of selling one lemonade, can I sell two at the same time?
Or I could sell one lemonade for twice the price.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Also, what was it? Magic was always making stupid amounts of money. Magic the Gathering. So I mean, we don't know how much Wizards of the Coast is actually worth, but it's in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
Fair enough.
Right. Well, I don't think that Paizo, maybe Paizo got hundreds of millions in their pocket, but Hasbro's a big ass company. They're in the billions, so if someone's gonna buy Wizards of the Coast, yet again, let's say if someone's gonna buy Wizards of the Coast, they're gonna make them pay through the nose for it. But unless the damage is so egregious that it's not worth the paper it's printed on, maybe they sell it before it goes to zero. But I don't see it going to zero.
But isn't that what happened to Magic the Gathering?
It's still doing well.
Like, didn't they just say, like, because they were printing so much, Hasbro Power Ranger NFT, that's calling them out. But yeah, like, I
don't know too much about the finances. There's a lot of people have been talking about a lot of stuff in the past week or two because of all this stuff coming out. So I've only been hearing bits and pieces. So I don't want to say that I sound like I know what I'm talking about. I'm just hearing bits and pieces from a lot of different people.
Yeah, that makes sense. But like I said, like I'm not sure.
I wish they could, but we even talked. I think there was a lot of talk about this before when Hasbro was talking about selling them, or there was rumor that Hasbro was talking about selling them. Like, people like, Paizo can buy them. Like, I don't think Paizo's got that kind of money.
Paizo doesn't have that money.
I don't think
Paizo's like, okay, Paizo's the biggest fish in an ocean, and so like you're looking at, like, let's say WotC and Hasbro are like a great white shark. Paizo is like a trout. It's big, but it's not a great white shark.
They're not a guppy.
Yeah, no,
but they're a big sea bass. Like,
yeah, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's. I wouldn't say they're a tuna because tuna can fuck up sharks, but like I would say they're like a large. They're large, but like they're not like comparable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
it's like a beluga. It's like a giant whale versus a tuna. Like
yeah.
Yes, the tuna could stab the shark a little bit, but the whale is so enormous that it could just like squash the tuna, right? Yeah. So, and we're not talking about like actual like can a tuna kill a whale, but you know we're talking about like relative size. Like Hasbro is enormous.
So someone look up the Pathfinder 2 stats for whale and tuna. let's see what the stats look like.
Let's pit them against each other. Fight to the death. You just see on our channel, death battle, tuna versus shark.
Yeah. But like that's kind of what I'm looking at here is right. Like you're looking like you know like you're looking that's the way you're looking at it. Like Paizo is the biggest one,
but even then
smallest.
Yeah. I mean, if you, I was seeing that if I could see the market share percentages. Hold on.
Because even Call of Cthulhu, which is one of like an equally large, and Call of Cthulhu gets like a bad rap, not like a bad rap, but like no one ever really talks about Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu is huge, one of the largest like selling tabletop role playing games out there, or even like White Wolf, but they ain't coming for the they won't sell. This is a power play, yeah.
Probably,
I agree.
You're probably right. I saw something out there where
real political, yeah.
I saw something out there that was like the market percentage of like 5e was like 90 something percent or 89 or 90%, and like Paizo had like 8 point something percent, and they were the next biggest person.
Yeah.
So I mean, and that's just comparing 5th edition to Pathfinder 2nd edition. I believe I'm not sure if it was Pathfinder 2nd edition or all of Pathfinder. And then you talk about like Hasbro being a billion-dollar company, a multi-billion-dollar company. And yes, even if the D&D brand is damaged, I still think that Wiz is worth way too much money.
I'm not saying they could. Right?
Yeah.
Like, Chaosium is like with Sandy Peterson and the Call of Cthulhu stuff. Mm-hmm. That's huge. And they can't, like, you know what I mean?
No,
like
they're small. I mean, they talk about I kind of just see it from the Kickstarter. They're actually having issues with getting their Kickstarters out just because the pandemic hit them hard too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're trying to get one project done at a time at this point.
That's all you can do. But like, you know what I mean? Like that's like if you know what I mean? Like it's so hard. And even like sure, like there's a nice influx, but like when we look at everything, it's Paizo couldn't, like they'll never buy, I don't think WotC will ever sell. Who's gonna buy them? Like who's gonna buy up another table? Like who's gonna, you know what I mean?
And here's the thing, and the fact that Wizards just tried this stuff, and they said they're coming out with another OGL. I don't think that Hasbro trying to get rid of them anytime soon. Even if they took a 50% hit in market share or like revenue hit, they're still a big ass company. They're still making money hand over fist with Magic the Gathering, D&D, with all the stuff that they're pulling. It would take a significant amount of damage over a protracted amount of time. So we're talking about a long-term damage.
Years.
And
like
for that to really
level bad,
for that to even be a consideration for them to sell, because even though let's say they're making, I'm just gonna throw a number out there, let's say that Wizards of the Coast is making 100 combined with Magic and D&D and all the other stuff, they're making $150 million. Let's say this damages them so bad they only make $75 million. I still making $75 million a year. I don't see them getting rid of them for that. And then again, over time, the brand hopefully would repair itself by being good to the community again. Okay, Call of Cthulhu joining Orc after never playing nice with anyone is big.
True.
Yeah, this is true. But yeah, so even if they lost half of their value, like I said, over time, people are going to forget about this unless they try this stuff again. maybe it never reached the point that it is now again because of the damage that they've received. But I think that over time, if they treat everyone well and their OGLs, if they release an OGL and it's not horrible, they can somewhat repair the damage that they did.
Yeah.
So I don't think I think that Hasbro will still value them unless it goes down to like near zero.
Oh yeah, no.
Where it costs more to run it than it actually making.
But they're not. You know what I mean? They're not cost. You know what I mean? It's not costing them squat or dizzy.
Exactly. I mean, well, we don't know that now, but we'll see in the future what kind of damage that Wizards has dealt to itself with this whole debacle.
Yeah, and at this point, I mean, like, I think the community is still very angry at WotC. I think we're looking still at a.
Yeah, if we knew this was going to happen, we'd all short sell D&D stock.
Yeah, everyone just short sell D&D. Short sell Hasbro. Yeah, I like the way I look at it. It's like it's we're looking at it in the sense of like, I think the community is mad. I think we're just kind of all at this point kind of up in the air because so much stuff has happened in literally 1 week. I've never seen this much news coming out of a tabletop system in a week. That's the problem. This all happened in not even a full week. Like
no, it was about a week and a half. It was about a week and a half.
Yeah. No, I mean Cobalt Press 3 days ago.
Oh yeah, with that, yes.
You know what I mean?
Well, people had to take nuclear options because this was like they were told you have till Friday. You have till tomorrow, which is today, to sign this thing, and people had to take nuclear options, and they had to survive. So yeah.
I'm not mad. I'm just so like, why? We'll never know, right? Like we could ask the whys all we want. It just makes no logical sense to have these like tyrannical stuff happen in the background of like, you have this product and you're really pushing this one D&D, this new market thing. If they had done nothing with the OGL, literally just changed the NFT thing and maybe said like, listen, like, because remember I said the whole virtual tabletop is what they're looking for.
Yeah,
they're looking because they D&D right now lives in two realms, and they so far haven't crossed over. You have your pen and paper players and you have your virtual tabletop players. Right now, most of the community is here. There is a large community here, but many people are still here. They're trying to get rid of this community to just keep the virtual tabletop because that's how they make their money. Because they could turn around and say exactly what you said. Okay, you have to sign this new tyrannical OGL to get your stuff sold on our tabletop, because this D&D virtual tabletop is the only place you could play D&D. You can't play it on Roll20. You can't play it on Foundry. You can't play it on Fantasy Grounds or Owl Bear Rodeo, right? Those are like the few big ones out there. You can only play it here for the new D&D.
Yeah,
they came out with this
and they were
OGL.
trying to nuke all the old stuff, so you couldn't play the old versions of D&D on on those platforms either.
Truth be told, they played their hand too fast. This should have came out 5 years from now, in 2030,
or they should have had a less egregious one. Like they went ham, they went so ham, and it'd be like if they had like the revenue thing. And maybe not 25 to 20%. It was like
15.
5 to 10% or 10 to 15%. And people, it would have been a hard pill to swallow. And some people might have not gone for it. But enough people would have been like, I do make a lot of money on D&D. And if this is the only way I can do it, okay, this is when we do it. But then they added in the revenue thing. Then they added in we can change anything we want. Then they added in that we can terminate you for any reason. Then it's like, and they like were getting hit from all sides. And it's like, you took all the worst options and put it in a deal, and we figured out who the big bad evil guy really is.
I'm telling you, 5 years from now, because this is the problem, they played their hand too fast. They like, if I was to be an evil person, right? Like if I'm playing the side now, I'm trying to explain why the Empire isn't terrible, and why they really help the galaxy more than the Republic, right? This is me playing devil's advocate. They showed their hand way too soon, right? Like if I was to be the evil corporation, if I'm C-suite level guy, these are the things that had to have happened. D&D 1 would have had to have been released. The virtual tabletop had to have been released and is in proper working condition. Not that beta bullshit, not that like
not janky ass,
not janky,
crashing
like,
all the time.
Yeah, like solid running. All of that has to happen, and that's a 5-year situation, because at this point you've released your D&D movie, you've released the second D&D movie, or have generated hype around the second D&D movie, and the TV show has been released, the and whatever other stuff you've released at this point is already out. So that's 5 years. Then they turn around and they say, hey, listen, we're having a small update. We need to release this OGL. And at this point, they've pushed enough people into the Foundry area, into the virtual tabletop, that they have to sign the OGL, no matter how tyrannical it says.
And even then, what the main thing that they did is they tried to invalidate the old OGL. If they didn't do that, which people could, yet again, someone was talking about this this past week. One of two things had to occur with the OGL. Two things had to happen. One of these two things had to happen. One, one D&D had to be so good, and the whole system surrounding it had to be so good that like you can't not use it.
You have to use
like
it,
you said. It's like it's so good. Like effectively, they're trying to make a Steam for role-playing games.
Yeah,
but they're role-playing games only. Oh, you want to play D&D? This is the only place you got to do it.
Yeah.
All your books, they're digital. All your dice, are digital. Everything is, okay, right? Or they had to make the OGL give you something that is so good that you want to sign it. Not all the stuff you're giving away. Not all the stuff that you have to give to Wizards. Money, your intellectual property rights so that they could do whatever they want. Rights to change the thing. No. It has to be giving you something that it's like, ooh, if I sign this, I get as a content creator, I get all this stuff, and then also I get to use Wizards' new sale platform, this D&D whatever, the D&D Beyond kind of suite of programs.
Super,
right. Whatever they're going to call the new all the virtual tabletop, all that stuff put together. That had to have been the deal had to have been so good, or the infrastructure had to be so good, and the game itself surrounding it. But the game's not out yet. And there's already been an outcry over a lot of stuff that's been talked about in the game. The movie's not out yet, even though people are hyped for it, but this is going to destroy a lot of that. And then the OGL was just like, why wouldn't like no one would sign it? Like there's no way in hell anyone would actually sign the OGL unless they were like in a drunken stupor.
Yeah. And here's the thing. If they had waited, like I said, for the one D&D to drop and their D&D Beyond to drop, they could have came for Kickstarter and been like, if you kickstart, right, like Hasbro premium thing that they do every so often.
Oh, the Hasbro Pulse, like you sign up, we have to pay for that.
Yeah, but if they did like their own version of that on the D&D, and they said, if you kickstart your stuff through our product, we will match whatever Kickstarter does.
That's an idea. Like they could have done that.
And then they say, we'll match whatever Kickstarter does. You just use our stuff. And
not even that. They wouldn't even use Kickstarter. They can bring everything in-house. Yeah.
They say, listen, we'll do all the hard lifting. You send us whatever, and if it goes, we'll launch it live on D&D Beyond, D&D, the Foundry thing. We'll have a perfect integration for our system, and and then it's all set up automatically.
All you had to do, I'm telling you, this bazillion-dollar idea, and Hasbro, you steal this, you owe me money. All they had to do.
We didn't sign the OGL.
I don't care. You steal this, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. All they had to do was allow creators who sign the OGL rights to crowdfund on Hasbro Pulse. And if they crowdfund on Hasbro Pulse, they don't pay a fee.
There, boom.
Right? And then, but the agreement says they have to sell it on the D&D Beyond or whatever thingy virtual tabletop, right? That's the only place they can sell
off of it.
Or they can sell it, but they sell like whatever price they sell it, they have to increase the price to other places, right? So if I sell it for $10 on D&D Beyond, it's got to be $12 or $15 or $20 on other platforms, right? So not only am I getting away, I'm getting out of the fee. So a Kickstarter, I have to pay a fee. Well, obviously, taxes, you have to pay taxes, right? You can't avoid taxes. That. But if I can avoid paying the Kickstarter fee, and I can also immediately sell it on D&D Beyond as a digital product. And if I want to sell other products, then you have to make an arrangement with them or whatever. But it's going to be like maybe it's a 10% discount on the Hasbro site or the D&D Beyond thing, right? Maybe it's a 10%. So if I buy it on D&D, it's a 10% discount, whether it's physical or digital. It's 10%, whatever you're selling it for. You want to sell it for $60? Okay, it's 10% of $60 or 15%, whatever deal you make with them. You want to sell it on DriveThruRPG? Go ahead. It's going to be the 10 or 15% more. You want to sell it on your own site? It's 10 to 50% more, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Done. And then you'll pull people towards your system, and you will still allow them to sell this stuff on other places. So you don't want to just only sell it. You don't ever want to limit somebody to only selling on your platform and nowhere else. Let them, it's their product. They should be able to sell it wherever they want, but you're brokering a deal with them to sell it cheaper on their site. So then money. And they'll just print money. And they'll come to you. Tell you, Hasbro, fucking see you.
No, I'm saying like we're not even C-suite people. I work in a fucking warehouse, and Steve is a desk jockey, and
former welder.
Yeah, and we figured this out in like what 15 minutes.
At 2 or 3 hours.
No, I'm saying at the very end, we figured out the best way to do this, and then that's when you start to integrate those draconian concepts into those. You have to be evil. They have to be evil, Steve. They're the bad guys. No redemption.
My whole point is they didn't have to be the bad guys. That's my whole point of coming out with this. They didn't have to be the bad guy.
No, they didn't. But
they could have been. Funny enough, they could have been the good guy and saying, "Look, we're going to give a deal to ourselves. If you come to us, we'll give you a deal by not charging you the fee, but you can still get the stuff to sell anywhere you want.
It just has to be 15% more.
Yeah, or whatever it is. We just get a cut." Because obviously, well, maybe it's this, even then. So, again, Hasbro's getting a cut of that sale because you're selling it on their platform, right? So then you're not getting a cut. So I'm not paying Hasbro to put it on Hasbro Pulse, but if it's successful, then when it's sold on D&D Beyond, they get extra percentage of every sale. Yeah. Okay, maybe it's a little bit more competitive. Maybe it's like a 10% cut of the sale, but I made money of the fact that I didn't have to pay the fee to Kickstarter.
Exactly.
And I don't have to deal with it. I just sell, and yet again, most guys are going to be on that platform because if Hasbro didn't fuck it up, everyone's yet again. If I can only play D&D on the new D&D VTT,
I'm already stuck there.
there. Now, if I want to sell physical books, or I want to allow DriveThruRPG to sell the physical or the digital copy that I can integrate, I can go to DriveThruRPG and sell the code. And then you download the code, and I can go to D&D Beyond and sell it. Maybe you just like that. Maybe you like the fact that all your stuff is integrated within DriveThruRPG. Yeah. And you don't want to have to deal with that. Okay, fine. Right? Sure. Let them sell. Or maybe let them sell the physical books. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it didn't have to be evil, and they could have had their cake and eaten it too.
Yeah, they would have made way more money that way.
Yeah. And they wouldn't have pissed off everybody.
Yeah, they, like, in one foul swoop, they got everyone upset. And like, I think doing it that way, it would have made it harder for people to go separate. Because like, you look at Critical Role and they're doing their stuff through Darrington Press. But if we're now kind of forcing everyone's hand, because you are forcing everyone, you're not forcing, but you're aggressively nudging their hand to sell on D&D Beyond. You kind of put people like the big ones, right? Like, let's say Critical Role, Matt Colville, and those who are up there like that, you kind of like, they're like, well, we could go through ours, but if we go through D&D Beyond, it's easier for us.
Yeah, but that's my point. It's like you're giving them the option.
Yeah.
The whole point is you're cutting them a deal. You're giving them a break by coming to you. You're not costing them more by having them go somewhere else. So if they wanted to make something on Kickstarter, because hey, maybe they have the big following on Kickstarter, maybe they tried the Hasbro Pulse thing and it didn't get enough traction, or maybe people like say, well, for some reason I can't use it for this or that reason. And then you run a Kickstarter on maybe the second printing, right? You did the first printing and it only made $750,000. Okay, fine. But then you do a second printing and it makes $3 million on Kickstarter. Okay, well, Kickstarter is the place you need to be, right? Okay, then whatever the deal is, the deal is. But I still think that using Kickstarter money and having Hasbro ask for that money as revenue is dumb, knowing the fact that how tight the margins are.
Oh, just interrupting. Victor welds too.
Yeah, I saw that.
You guys should combine your powers and make a giant D20 for me to roll half the people.
Not welded in such a long time.
It's fine. I don't need it to be sturdy. I just wanted to chase my players around with.
Just have that mallet that I've seen people have, the mallet with the D20 on the end.
That's what I would like.
Well, yeah,
I'm just putting it out there.
I drink your milkshake. So yeah, I mean, I think we can talk this point to death at this point, but I think we got most of the major stuff down. That basically what happened in the last almost 2 weeks of the nuclear fallout of this whole thing.
Yeah, I think personally, like I said, I'm kind of over it at this point. I will be keeping up with the news and announcing stuff as it comes out.
Yeah, if any new hotness comes out, but
I highly doubt I'm gonna be as aggressive with this stuff. I know you guys will miss my constant
janky shorts.
Janky shorts. I will keep pushing those and doing them as fast and as possible as I can, but I don't want to keep
beating
this dead horse. Yeah, because this horse is dead. We know what's coming. I will be excited. We'll talk about it if the new OGL drops. We will talk about it.
Or these new systems come out. I'm definitely love to review this stuff. I'm down to play new systems.
New systems, yeah. I'm excited for the Cobalt Press one. I'm excited for. Okay, so I'm mad. I was listening to someone talk about the Cobalt Press, and they were like, "Oh, it's something Project Black Flag, so it's got to be pirate themed." I was like, "No, it's just its running title."
Yeah,
like that's not like it's not pirate themed. I was like, "Where did you get that from?"
Well, the idea is also Project Black Flag is that what is the Black Flag representing? Is representing anti-establishment. It's like, okay, you want to do this? All right, we're throwing up our Black Flag, showing you that we're not following your rules.
Exactly. Yeah. So I was like, where'd you get pirate? I was like, I think they saw like one meme of a pirate flag and it said like Cobalt Press and they were like, pirates! I believe it's a fantasy system. I think, or probably all of them will stick fantasy. I would like to see Pathfinder 2.5. I think.
You know what? I have one better for you. And I think I mentioned this. Actually, I might have mentioned this to someone else. Starfinder 2nd Edition.
Ooh.
I mean, this is the time, right? At this point, this is the time.
Now's the time.
Starfinder 2nd Edition. Boom. And then literally and what I would love, and this is hopefully, Paizo, I know none of you are listening, but maybe this gets you to the grapevine at some point. When Starfinder first came out, it was enough difference to 1st Edition where it made it hard from 1st Edition Pathfinder to Starfinder. I know that was the intention of like having Starfinder and Pathfinder be similar, but there's enough rules changes that it made things complicated.
Made sense. Yeah.
I would love for Starfinder 2nd Edition to be an extension of from 2nd Edition, Pathfinder 2nd Edition, where there's enough rules. And I'm sorry, I'm going to throw shade on Hasbro here. Don't do what Hasbro did. Don't do what Wizards did, and not put in ship-to-ship combat. Put it in ship-to-ship combat, but
Starfinder has amazing ship-to-ship combat.
They didn't put it in Starfinder.
In Starfinder, the 1st Edition Starfinder has ship-to-ship combat.
The 1st Edition Starfinder, yes, but not the one that they just not the 5th Edition Starfinder. That was that's what I'm talking about. Spelljammer. I'm sorry, whatever. But you know that the current Spelljammer didn't have great ship-to-ship combat. Put ship-to-ship combat. Put the rules that you need to get the feel of Starfinder in the game, but then make all the rest of the rules work with 2nd Edition. So I literally can take my fantasy character and throw it on a spaceship and have fun. That's how much integration that I want. I would want to be like, okay, we're on Galorian, like the ship comes in, scoops us up, and now we're in space.
Yeah.
And maybe I get a laser pistol, maybe not, or whatever. Maybe I have an energy sword or whatever. But make it work.
Oh my God, Starfinder was so much fun. I played Starfinder. It was fun. The problem was it's 3.75
plus extra. Plus extra. Like they had this whole like energy armor system, and don't get me wrong, it was cool. And I looked at it and I really wanted to play it and never got around to it. But I could never convince my friends, like, look, we already play Pathfinder. Pathfinder is already enough of a bear for most of us. I can't learn more rules. Like, and then it was a chore for me to get people on board to playing Starfinder. Especially most of my friends are into fantasy more than sci-fi. But I would just love for it to be as clean of an extension to second edition as they can get it, with also adding the rules that make Starfinder. That's what I want. I want my cake and eating it too. That's basically what I want. I want everything. But yeah, I think it's time for Starfinder. And yeah, maybe they make an addendum to Pathfinder as well. Almost to the point that they make like a Rifts-esque system where they can, like, you can just plug in any different kind of thing you want. We want fantasy. We already have second edition Pathfinder second edition. You want pure sci-fi? Okay, we're gonna plug in Starfinder. Oh, we want this like weird noir thing, we have an update for that. Oh, you want this weird steampunk thing? Oh, we have a plugin for that. And we just keep plugging everything into, if you want to make this Pathfinder second edition, this kind of overarching system that you can plug multiple things into and almost make it, like I said, Rifts-esque, then you could do that. And then anyone can write anything for any part of it.
I'd play Starfinder 2E.
I would too, and I think everyone at the table would.
That's
6 people. Paizo, that's enough people. Start working.
We got 6 people. Make it happen, Paizo. So I'm gonna say this. Right now. I played Starfinder. I played Starfinder. I liked it a lot. I watched Charles accidentally kill Fabio and Vijay with a grenade because he decided to throw a grenade out a door that was shut because he never listens. He's always like 50-50 when he plays. He's there and he's playing, but he's also not there because he's on his phone, texting and stuff. So I remember like Brendan left the room, they wound up, they were on a planet, right? So they went to a planet. They were looking for like a bounty hunter because they needed to question the bounty hunter. And basically Brendan was playing one of like the hamster people, the rat people, the Starfinder rat people, which are pretty funny because in my lore, I made them, they all called each other cousins because they had like a communal family. Because like, you know how big rat families are?
Yeah.
That like they didn't know if you might or might not be part of their actual like genetic lineage. So they just referred to like each other as cousins. And they referred to like the moms and like the older generation as like auntie and uncle, and then the younger one as like niece and nephew. But like if you were around the same age, like obviously generational, you like that. So that was like my rat people. So he was like, oh, they were looking for like a bounty hunter group, and they wound up they got led to like basically what looked like a trailer, and they went inside the trailer to like rifle through paperwork, and then the bounty hunter group, like it was a trap, and then started firing on them. And then Brendan ran outside, went around it to get cover from the back, and then make a beeline for the mountain range. But he shut the door behind him, and then Charles went, and Charles was like, I throw a grenade. I was like, where? He was like, at the door. And I was like, okay. Throws a grenade at the door. Vijay and Fabio are standing right next to the door because Vijay was shooting out the window, and Fabio was like, his next turn he was planning on leaving too. And like I was like, okay, grenade goes off, everyone roll for saves. And Charles was like, they threw it out the door. And I was like, the door was shut, Brendan shut the door. And everyone was like, yeah, Brendan did shut the door. And the grenade went off, killed Vijay and Fabio in one shot. Like they both failed their saves, and the grenades were powerful and they were close enough, and they died in one shot. And then they were like, and we were like level 1 too, and they were like both of them dead. And then I was like, well, but like it was fun. It was fun. We actually did get to play a little ship-to-ship combat, and ship-to-ship is really cool because the way it works. I this now went off into a tangent of Starfinder. The way it works is like everyone gets a position on the ship.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And you get to do shit.
You get special actions if you're like the gunner or you're the engine person or you're a medic.
If I had known how awesome it was, I would have put down a map and actually used like the Star Wars mini combat game figurines to like use them, because like you could do like there was like a book like there were actual maneuvers like you could do. So Starfinder 2E, make it happen, Paizo.
Yeah, I think that's like the right play. Like, again, if they're trying to integrate everything and give this open, the orc license, the open, RPG license that people can publish under Pathfinder 2nd Edition, they can publish. So I think that's their best move. If they, I have a funny feeling they've been thinking about it for a while and they probably been working on it in the back burner. But I think this needs to be their next priority project. If it were me.
1,000,000%, I agree. I'm super excited. I hope they do, because I really like, I'm more of a sci-fi fan than I am fantasy. I love both genres though, but like I'm old school fantasy where I'm like Kroll, where like I got my sci-fi mixed in with my fantasy, right? Like Kroll, the bad guy was from space. He was a space monster and he was on a spaceship, and then they were fighting stormtrooper-esque characters with
aliens, effectively.
Yeah, they were fighting aliens. That's how I like my fantasy, where it's actual fantasy, where like one day you could be fighting like an evil necromancer, and like very like Conan, where like there were entities from other universes. But yeah, that's my love for that. I actually just tweeted, if everyone out there, if you follow us on Twitter, I just tweeted at Paizo Starfinder 2E, make it happen. So if you want to blast that, if you have a Twitter, follow us at MVNG Podcast and then retweet it, and let's see if we can get Paizo to make an answer for this. But yeah, I think that's it for now. It's 1 a.m. We want to say thank you very much to everyone hanging out with us. Thank you so much. If you're watching this later on, thank you so much. Yeah, and I'm kind of done with the whole OGL thing. WotC has like burnt my balls on this one, and I'm kind of done with them. Like I tickle my asshole. Don't fucking shove your whole fist up there without letting me know. And that's kind of what they did.
Even without the courtesy of lube.
Yeah, what was that? The South Park? When Cartman's like, "You're gonna fuck me, Mom? You're gonna fuck me without lube?" And he just like yells about like getting I love Cartman. Cartman's hysterical. He has like the worst like sayings, but some of the best stuff. But yeah. But yeah. So I want to say thank you, Steve, for hanging out with me tonight. This was kind of fun.
Good night, everybody.
Victor, Blaze, thank you for hanging out with us in chat. Everyone else who was in chat, thank you for watching and hanging out with us for this like 3-hour session. That was
about just shitting on Wizards of the Coast.
This was basically
just like a shit fest.
We just needed to vent. Honest to God, this was us venting, dealing with all this bullshit.
I've been hearing so many people talk about it, and I'm like, I need to get some of this stuff off my chest because it's a damn annoying.
Because I was just mad, and nothing we said was controversial about it. We were just like, yeah, fuck WotC, fuck this sweet people. Rage. Yeah. So don't forget, when playing tabletop role-playing games, be a savage, not an average.
See you later, buddy.
Bye.